Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Live Show Week 8 Review Edition. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz. It is a great night to be great, and it's a great night to break down all the utilization, all the big plays, all the injury fallout, all that and much, much more here on another edition of the Fantasy Live Show. Of course, as always, I'm joined by the one, the only Fantasy Life Director of Analytics, Day One Drake May truther and fanboy himself, Dwain McFarland's in the house. What's up, man?
I don't know about day one, but definitely off season Drake May fan. Yeah, dude, I'm excited. Kind of a crazy slate, a lot of blowouts today, but hey, we still got a lot to talk about.
One game, Dwain, exactly one game decided by less than 10 points. Yeah, happened to be a pretty fun one between the Jets and Bengals. Much more on that and more later. First, though, guys, let's rewind the clocks all the way back to Thursday Night Football, where the Chargers beat down the Vikings 37-10, covering with ease as 3-point faves. The over also cashed relatively easy at 45. This game was 24-3 early in the third quarter. You're going to notice when a lot of these games, I'm going to be mentioning how much of a blowout it was in the earlier portions of the second half. Looking at the Chargers, it was great to see Justin Herbert rejoined by BFF Joe Alt. Funny video at one point of them just kind of jumping up like 16-year-old BFFs. And why not? Herbert did throw 3 touchdowns on the evening. And yeah, man, Kamani Vidal had a rushing touchdown. Ladd McConkey had a cool one down the sideline. Really did seem like everything was clicking in Los Angeles. Any big utilization takeaways here, Dwayne, other than just Aronde Gaston being the second coming of Jesus, I guess?
The biggest takeaway is the Jarrett Patterson photo in the utilization report, Ian. You know how Rico Dowdle has the nose piercing? Yeah. Jarrett Patterson is just his smile. So, I mean, I don't know what that means. Rico Dowdle got on a hot streak, so I don't know what that means for Jarrett Patterson. But yeah, as far as the running back room goes, we did not have Hassan Haskins. Obviously, he was out. We did also have Naheem Miller-Hines was available, but it was Patterson that was RB2. But the big star of the show, to your point, was Kamani Vidal. Gave you 19.7 fantasy points, 74% of the snaps, 64% of the rushing attempts, 59% route participation. He had an 8% target share. So, yeah, Vidal, man, out there doing good things. It's funny what happens whenever you get to be the lead back in a good offense. And that's what we have right now with Vidal. We'll see what happens with Omari and Hampton, but we're still looking at least a few more games. So right now, man, Vidal looking like a nice RB2.
Gets to sink his teeth into whatever is left of that Titans defense after Jonathan Taylor got running all over them today. Mentioned Aronde Gaston caught all 5 of his targets for 77 yards and a touchdown. He certainly looks the part of a star at the position, Dwayne. And now in terms of looking at tight ends with the most yards in NFL history in their first 6 games, only Kyle Pitts and Jordan Reed have more. So certainly been hyping up this dude plenty. And the waiver wire streets sure seems like he's someone that we're going to be firing up. I don't know, Dwayne, top 8, top 6 on a weekly basis until he proves us wrong?
Here's my guess is that he still finishes as a low end tight end 1 this year. It's just, I really like him. Like, and we were on him. He's a sicko call 2 weeks ago, so hopefully people picked him up. But at the same time, like, it's still a very crowded room, and we think we can predict what's going to happen with this. Like, he's going to be the odd man left out some of these weeks. Just like right now, it's happening to Quentin Johnston. It happened to Ladd McConkey early in the season. Happened to Keenan Allen this last week. And this was the first game script where really we saw the Chargers were able to truly lean into the run. And when they had the opportunity to, they actually did it. So it'll be interesting to see what the drop back rate over expected was on this game, because I did not check it, but I can look at that right now because I do have the team styles up right in front of me.
-1%.
Yeah, -1%. So yeah, it was this is the first game like that all season. Now it was a nice leading game script, but the drop back rate over expected is accounting for that. So we'll see what happens. Like, I really like him. Like, I think he's a great dynasty asset. I feel like people are going to hear this, they're going to be all mad about Aronde Gaston. Like, look, and I put it in the utilization report last week. Like, there's a chance, guys, he's a top 6 tight end. Like, it's a realistic outcome that could happen for him. I think most runouts, he ends up being a low end tight end 1. But obviously, if you have him, like, it's going to be tough to not have him in the lineup. You're not going to know which weeks the bad weeks are going to come, but what the good weeks can look like. And it was 18.7 PPR points this time around. Obviously, the week before it was even more.
You mentioned QJ being unfortunately the odd man out, had that goose egg, didn't even get a single target out there. Of course, another reason for that is the ascension of Lab McConkey. First 4 weeks, Dwain only averaged 8.4 PPR points per game. Good for wide receiver 56 status. That said, the season did not end after September. Last 4 weeks, Lab McConkey, 18.6 PPR points per game, sixth highest marker among wide receivers when I was pulling that during the mid-afternoon game. So doing great things. And again, just great seeing him largely go back to being the awesome wide receiver we thought he was. Headshot, horrific drop notwithstanding to start off that game, but certainly recovered nice for his efforts. So Trey Harris also caught a touchdown. But yeah, guys, Kamani Vidal, Lab McConkey, Oronde Gaston looking like surefire starters in leagues.
I just want to say this. Like, I think the biggest takeaway here, Ian, is folks, remember how you felt about McConkey through the first several games. And we were saying Lab McConkey's still good. And everybody's, oh, no, he's not good now. Look, Quentin Johnston's the number one. People are going to do the same thing about Quentin Johnston now. This is the stupid game we play. And we're just on a roller coaster. And I'm just telling you, like, this stuff's going to level out. Like, McConkey's going to have games where he's the odd man out. QJ's still going to have big games. So just don't overreact. I know it stinks because we don't know which guys to necessarily play every week in this offense, but at least it's a good offense.
We'll try to do some digging with some man zone stuff, see what we can uncover. But yeah, only one football to go around. We got 4 very qualified parties in the passing game. Going to unfortunately have some duds like any good wide receiver is going to. I think I saw the stat from Josh Norris, Dwayne, where before Sunday Night Football, only one wide receiver, that being Troy Franklin, even scored over 16 and a half half PPR points today. So again, can be a fickle position at times. We'll see how things go the rest of the week. Over there with the Vikings now, 12 first downs, 164 total yards, just under 21 minutes of time of possession for Carson Wentz and company. He looked all kinds of banged up from the beginning. Luckily, we'll be seeing JJ McCarthy back here in week 9. So Carson Wentz era is over. At least he did manage to get Justin Jefferson back on pace for 1,400 yards on the season. And Jordan Addison been performing well as well. Wide receiver 12, Justin Jefferson. Wide receiver 17 in fantasy, Jordan Addison, since Addison returned in week 4. So again, we'll have plenty of time throughout the week to talk about the quarterback change. The big news here in Minnesota, though, Dwayne, was the return of Aaron Jones. What do we see from the backfield in terms of utilization?
You know, it's hard to say 100% because it was such a big trailing script. But what we saw in this particular game is that it was Aaron Jones really is the guy you want. You know, if the Vikings are going to be trailing, that's really what we can say right now. He was the better back than Jordan Mason. Now, it's not like either one of them were great. Jordan Mason gave you 1.6 PPR points. Aaron Jones gave you 5. But it was 54% of the snaps to Aaron Jones, 35% to Mason. 45% of the rushing attempts to Jones, 36% to Mason, 50% route participation to Jones, and only 28%. And obviously, Aaron Jones pretty good out of the backfield. He had a 14% target share. He played 100% of the 2-minute offense. I don't think this is necessarily what's going to happen every week, Ian, but I do think it's just kind of a forewarning of what it can look like for Jordan Mason in a game where things get out of hand. I think the split's going to be pretty close. I think in leading game scripts, you probably see more Mason. Games like this, you're going to see more Aaron Jones. The main thing is we just need this offense to play better because we really don't want to play either one of these guys if this is all they're going to be able to score. So JJ McCarthy, to your point, we'll talk about him more later, but that will be the big story. What does this offense look like when he's back?
Really was one of the more horrific rushing performances I can remember seeing, man. Aaron Jones only 15 yards on his 5 carries. Jordan Mason with 4 carries for 3 total yards on the day. Xavier freaking Scott was out here outproducing them both. So would like to imagine better days are going to be ahead. That said, next week in Detroit against the Lions could still again be a tough run game matchup for those Minnesota Vikings. Let's get into Sunday now, Dwayne. We had the Miami Dolphins beat down the Atlanta Falcons, and I would say the biggest upset of the day, 34-10. Miami came in as 7-point dogs, won outright in ATL. The under did cash here just by a hair at 44.5. So another blowout. This game was 24-3 in favor of the Dolphins with about 5 minutes left in the third quarter. That said, Dwayne, big reason for that was Tua Tagovailoa telling a lot of us to F off, having the best game of the season, 205 passing yards and 4 touchdowns on 20 of 26 passing. He did have a 4-yard average target depth. This was a lot of, good yak opportunities. Jalen Waddle had a nice catch over the middle, ran away from everyone, and we saw Devon Achane doing his thing as well. So again, maybe not the most prolific, just one downfield dime after another performance. But hey, style points. Last time I checked, Dwayne, don't really count in fantasy or real life for anything extra. Good on the Dolphins for once again proving that they aren't done with this season just yet.
Yeah, it's good to see Tua get it right between the lines for once, because off the field, the press conferences have been pretty rough the last couple of games. So good for Tua. There's honestly not a lot to add here, Ian. Like, it's the Dolphins offense status quo. Like, Devon Achane is Devon Achane. We saw a little more work for Ollie Gordon today. Some of that looked like matchup stuff, but some of it was also just due to, well, the Dolphins blowing another team out, which hasn't really happened this season. Jalen Waddle, you had a nice tweet on him, but another nice day, 22% target share. He gave you 20.9 fantasy points, turned on the afterburners to erase angles and take that one catch to the end zone. So yeah, everything else pretty much the same. Malik Washington still not in a full-time role. Nick Westbrook-Ikini not in a full-time role. The tight ends were a complete rotation with Darren Waller out, so nothing really to add, man.
Jalen Wright, first touches of the year. Dwain, still.
I buried the lead. My bad.
Still very much
of the carries.
Still very much the clear-cut RB3 in no way, shape, or form should he be on a fantasy roster. But good to see that Jalen Wright is, in fact, living and breathing on this planet. But yeah, Jalen Wright, again, 5 catches, 99 yards, and a touchdown. He had the bad weather game in Cleveland. Before that, guys, 6 catches for 95 yards. Before that, 6 catches, 110 yards, and a touchdown, looking very much like a legit wide receiver one in real life and fantasy ever since Tyreek Hill has been out. Dolphins are going to be facing the Ravens here on Thursday Night Football in Miami. Hopefully, we'll see Lamar Jackson back for that one. Over with the Falcons, this was a situation, man, where, yeah, they looked horrendous out there. Only had 11 total first downs, 213 total yards, just a hair over 22 minutes of time of possession. So Kirk Cousins looked as immobile as we've seen him, which, again, isn't all that surprising given that he had the Achilles injury 2 years ago, but certainly hasn't gotten more fleet-footed, I would say, in his time off. Also just wasn't on the same page as receivers, man. There was one to Darnell Mooney, I think another one to Kadero Hodge, where the receivers looked frustrated, and you saw Cousins, yelling/beating his own helmet as well. So it was rough out there. Please, Michael Penix, get better soon. Certainly, a nice, boost up in his job security, if you could call it that. So overall, Dwayne, I guess the big question here would be, what did we see from that wide receiver room as Drake London was ruled out there with the hip injury?
Yeah, it's pretty gross. I will say that Darnell Mooney, the helicopter, Ian, hey, at least he didn't score a 0. Have you ever had a helicopter score a 0?
Dwayne, of course.
You're like, dude, I do a helicopter every week, like it's bound to happen.
Well, Fuller probably did that twice.
Well, Darnell Mooney, here's what I can say, Ian. Hey, he was on the field, man. 94% route participation, 13% target share. I was, I wasn't as bullish as you, but you were bullish for the right reasons, which is we have seen him and Kirk Cousins really like timing is part of their game. And, maybe we should have thought a little bit more about the fact that Kirk Cousins hadn't really been playing with Darnell Mooney, just getting backup reps at practice. But 2.1 fantasy points. And then really, man, it's just a mess behind him. Kyle Pitts did his thing, 14.9. Yeah. Did you know that it's National Tight End Day, Ian? I don't know if you heard that today.
What?
But,
wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's this new thing. But Kyle Pitts, 30% target share. He led the team. Kadero Hodge was actually second on the team with a 27% target share, but only a 72% route participation. Yeah, 6.1 fantasy points. So basically, look, until you get Drake London back, it's Kyle Pitts in a pinch or in a deep league. I still think that Mooney's going to be the other guy, and then you have Bijan, and you're not messing with any of this other stuff. It's just a gross rotation. And yeah, look, Kadero Hodge, I know, Ian, he's a man after your own heart. You really love him.
He's a Pro Bowler. Pretty hard to do, Dwayne.
Pretty hard to do. Huntley. Yep.
Hey, Kadero Hodge, unlike Tyler Huntley, earned that
special team.
Demon on the pump log team, Dwayne. Watch the all-22. With Kyle Pitts, guys, now averaging career best 11.3 PPR points per game, was only at 10.4 his rookie season. So we really are seeing now the production back up the fact that Pitts is playing better than ever. Now, that's still only a tight end 10, so don't go completely freaking out. Feeling good about him, though, again, being in that low-end tight end 1 conversation the rest of the way. So, again, very, very disappointing on Mooney. I will get my push-ups in. I will watch the film and get better. Did draw a 39-yard defensive pass interference penalty if you guys happen to be in those leagues, aka they do not exist. But yeah, man, again, I think to your point, just probably a situation where be careful trusting backup quarterbacks, even if they are of the Kirk Cousins variety. The hilarious thing about this, Dwayne, is we even saw Mika Fitzpatrick, we saw Storm Duck, more members of an already atrocious Dolphins secondary got hurt in this game, and it still just didn't even matter. So rough one again for the Falcons. I would like to think they're going to be playing better in the future. They certainly cannot play much worse. So atrocious game, obviously, from Bijan Robinson, 25 rushing yards, 23 receiving yards. This was against a defense too, Dwayne, that was allowing 128 rushing yards per game just to opposing RBs. That was the 5th worst mark coming into the game since 2020, man. So absolutely brutal. They're going to be in New England next week. We'll see if times can get better there. Moving on to an NFC East showdown. We had the Eagles take down the Giants 38-20. Philly covered with the ease as 7.5-point faves. The overcash here as well at 43.5. This one was 31-13 early in the fourth quarter as the Eagles really did run away with things. Shout out to Jalen Hurts for finding a way to throw away with things, I guess, too, you could say. Threw 4 touchdowns on the day, one to Saquon Barkley. Also found Jahan Dotson on a cool Moss play, and Dallas Goedert not once but twice, both pretty much of the uncovered variety. But hey, kudos to Goedert for, again, continuing to score all kinds of touchdowns. He now has a career high 7 on just 30 receptions this season. He is tied with Amon-Ra St. Brown for the league high in receiving scores. So unfortunately, Dwayne, the big story here, actually, we can say fortunately, Saquon Barkley had an awesome game, 150 yards and a touchdown, also chipped in the receiving score, broke off a 65-yard house call where we actually registered the 5th highest ball carrier speed of the season per next gen stats. So he's still got that giddy up. I just hope it's there after the bye week, Dwayne, because he did seem to suffer a groin injury there around the 3rd or 4th quarter.
Yeah, the report I had heard was hamstring, but it might have been groin. So we'll see what it is. But either way, we've got a bye week coming up, so he's got an extra week to get ready. But we've got a small sample of the drives without Barkley. It was only 2, but we had 80% of the snaps go to Tank Bigsby. Then we had 80% of the attempts also go to Bigsby and 50% route participation. And it was Mr. Shipley playing behind him, Ian, with 20% of the snaps and 20% of the attempts. So I don't want to try and pretend that that's the kind of split we're going to see, but I will say this, like we saw Bigsby active last week and we saw AJ Dillon down for that game. And then we saw him again this week. So it does look like Bigsby is the guy that's probably picked up the offense at this point. They traded for him from the Jaguars earlier in the season. Bigsby's also a guy we saw do nice things last year. So I think we have entered the territory, even if, we don't know necessarily that Bigsby's going to get any playing time. We're hoping Barkley's better after the bye, but I think if you have to pick a running back that you're rostering off the Eagles as the running back 2 on that team that would have the most value if Barkley went down, I do think it's Bigsby. I think that clearly is his role, and he looked good today.
Sure did. 104 yards rushing on just 9 carries out there. This whole team, though, Dwayne, I know this number is going to be skewed a bit by just, again, that long 65-yard house call, but the Eagles running backs this game averaged 5.2 rushing yards before contact per carry. Before this game, their previous season single game mark was only 1.8. So, again, good job by the run block, and hopefully this is a sign of even bigger and better things to come. We'll hope, again, to get that bye and get guys like Saquon and A.J. Brown even healthier. Over with the Giants, only total 246 yards. We did have Jackson Dart still find his way into the end zone as a rusher at the end. That was good to see. Still averaging 21.4 fantasy points per game since taking over. His game would have even been bigger if we had a 68-yard touchdown to Darius Slayton, not overturned on a fairly ticky-tack OPI. He did have a little bit of a shove in there, but the cornerback was also kind of grabbing him. As someone who is completely unbiased and only drafted Darius Slayton every other draft I was in this summer, I do not think it should have been called. But all that aside, Dwayne, obviously the big news here was the injury gods wreaking havoc on our souls once again. Cam Scatterby with the dislocated ankle is going to miss the rest of the season. He is undergoing surgery on Sunday night. So absolutely sucks. This dude I thought was one of the biggest breaths of fresh air of the entire rookie class this year. So fun to watch. And just in typical Cam Scatterby form, Dwayne, even when he was on the field, horrific injury, he was still like asking his teammates to help him get up because that dude is as tough as they freaking come. So hopefully he comes back 100%. Man, hate to see it.
Yeah, really hate to see the injury. So as far as what do we do now? Tyrone Tracy Jr. was the clear running back 1 for the team after we lost Scatterby. So Scatterby went down on the first snap of the 3rd drive. So we've got a pretty big sample here over the rest of the game. They actually played 11 drives in this game. So for all the rest of that time, we had Tyrone Tracy, 64% of the snaps, Ian, 55% of the rushing attempts, 55% route participation, 19% target share. Some people probably thinking, well, man, like 56% of the rushing attempt. Guys, remember Jackson Dart's on the team. And he gets design rushing attempts. Devin Singletary only got 13% of the rushing attempts, 19% snap share for Singletary. So this is probably going to be like a 70-30 kind of thing, 65-35. And the Giants, Ian, like surprisingly with Jackson Dart are playing pretty good. And Tracy had a 16% target share today. So, I mean, Cam Scatterby, Again, hate to see that he is injured, but man, Tyrone Tracy is a priority on the waiver wire. He's going to be a running back too the rest of the way. Like, I mean, he's going to have to hold off Singletary, but I think we both probably believe that he's capable of that. And this is a guy that can be a plus in a passing game and an offense that, they need targets, man. They need guys they can throw the ball to. Wan'Dale Robinson and Theo Johnson can't do absolutely everything. Sorry, no slander towards Mr. Darius Slayton. I agree. I wish that had been a touchdown. So Tyrone Tracy, man, we'll probably start him off. It feels like a doctor, we'll probably start you off as a low end running back too. And then we'll kind of see how you're doing from there. And maybe we'll move you up to like a mid-range running back too. So, but again, like an offense that has a surprisingly like decent ceiling every week with Jackson Dart at the helm.
And even this game, man, the Slayton touchdown we mentioned, but then that, I'm sure everyone's seen it by now, but the tush push non-fumble where they finally decided to blow one of those plays dead quickly. I mean, man, I think we both came in this year saying like, hey, you want to stop it? Like, stop it. Okay. It shouldn't be completely outlawed. But now I think
officiate it. Jesus.
You can't officiate it, man. So we've seen it time and time again. I would certainly enjoy my Sundays more of a side of the picture, but whatever. It's a fantasy podcast at the end of the day with Tracy, Dwain, Tyrone Tracy. Empty the clip. Fab.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you need a running back, like, look, yes, he's not going to be an elite running back 1, but I do think he's a running back 2. And at this point in the season, if you need a back, you're this far. Yes, absolutely.
And remember, we saw him do some really good things his rookie year. He is a pass-catching friendly running back. Had some ball security concerns, sure, but at this point, what great fantasy running back doesn't? Shout out Kyron Williams and Ramondre Stevenson from time to time. So just again, with Tracy, had a great rookie season. Cam Scatterby was just honestly better than him and took that job. But remember, only other competition, Devin Singletary, who to his credit actually had one nice downfield catch today. Have not seen Singletary really turn this into anything close to a two-headed backfield. Clearly, Brian Dable prefers to really just lean on one guy. So it's going to be the Giants at home against the 49ers next week, Dwain. They had another handful of injuries attack their front seven. I do think with 4 more teams on bye, Tracy is probably immediately going to be a top 20 running back, if not even higher. Let's move on to the Bills beating down the Panthers 40-9. Buffalo cover with ease at 7-point faves. The overcash here at 48. This game was 40-3 by the end of the third quarter. Andy Dalton did not have some of that, old magic going for him today. But Josh Allen and company did, mostly because he proved to be very capable of handing the ball off to James Cook, Dwain. 216 yards and 2 touchdowns on just 19 carries, tied the week high lead with 7 missed tackles forced, and is now on pace for 17 touchdowns and 829 rushing yards on the season. So yeah, I wish we weren't now 3 straight weeks into James Cook not having a single reception, because I don't know, Dwain, I think he's good at that too, but hey, he wants to run for 200 yards every game. I guess that's just fine.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll take it. 33.6 PPR points. And the Bills just didn't really need to throw the ball today. And we've seen this kind of game stripped out of them over the last, honestly, like 2 years. We've seen this where when they get in a certain situation, they just don't really feel the need to keep throwing the ball. And today was certainly one of those games with Josh Allen. He only had to throw for 163 yards today. I mean, 8.6 yards per attempt, but it's kind of like, just kind of doing your thing back there. So, yeah, James Cook, wish he was getting more work in the receiving game, but absolutely looking elusive, explosive, scoring the touchdowns, doing everything that we saw last year that really made him, a top 12 running back. He's doing those things again this year. We know he has some fragility if he gets into a game script where the Bills are forced to need to score a lot of points, or if they are trailing, because they have shown us they are not going to put James Cook on the field, at least to this point, and let him catch passes in those scenarios, because you got to Ty Johnson whenever you can Ty Johnson.
Josh Allen did save his fantasy day with 2 tush-push touchdowns of his own. The Bills do it differently, though. They actually put wide receivers out wide as they're doing it. And honestly, man, it makes sense to me. You're bringing out players with them, and now all of a sudden you still have the same numbers in the box. You're just, again, accounting for those players as it is on the outside. So good stuff, again, from the Bills. Saw Khalil Shakur have another nice day. Caught 6 of 7 targets, 88 yards and a touchdown. This dude, for being 6 foot, like 190, Dwain, is just inexplicably one of the toughest dudes to get in the ground in the entire league. Again, sick 54-yard touchdown today, showing off the yak. He is now number 1 in yards after the catch per reception among wide receivers by 3.4 yards over Justin Jefferson. And he's number 1 in tackles avoided per reception, ahead of Travis Hunter again by a ton. Cannot wait to put this chart out. It's literally, Dwain, like a Puka Nacua level chart where it's just, oh my gosh, there's the whole league. And then up in the far right, there's actually Khalil Shakur. Absolute yak beast, and we love to see it. Last
Too
question
bad you
here,
can't do a 3-dimensional chart, which would have average depth of target, because that is huge. huge for this kind of stat. Just because like today he had a 1.5 average depth of target. And so your yak's just inherently going to be higher. Now that's not to take away from him. We talked about Khalil Shakir in the preseason being a really good yards after the catch player, kind of in the same vein as Rashee Rice, not as big, not as thick, as strong after the catch, but still like can do some of the same things. Unfortunately, he had that high ankle sprain, man, that I think has really hurt him. And we might be seeing him really get back to closer to 100% just now. And I know the last couple of games, he started to look better, but today was definitely the best he's looked. Still a four-way rotation in this wide receiver room, though. Now, some of this might have been to blowout at the end due to the blowout conditions, but a 64% route participation for Khalil Shakir, 76% for Keon Coleman. So Bills continue doing Bills things, but yes, Khalil Shakir did look good today.
And that was with Josh Palmer out. But no, it's a very fair point. I do remember, man, I've done some of the average target depth with yards after catch on the chart. And the two wide receivers I just remember so sticking out over the years as still having ridiculous yak with a high average target depth. A.J. Brown and our one true king, Josh Gordon, back in the day, man. Oh, yeah. What an absolute beast that dude was. Last question I had here. I know, man. Dalton Kincaid, oblique injury, missed the last game. Back to his usual role that isn't as big as we want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, hang on one second. Let me pull it back up. I had already switched over to the other team, but yeah, looking at Knox today, didn't come through in the fantasy box score, obviously for you guys. So, of course, this thing's just, we love True Media, but it's just sitting here loading in. So I did look at it earlier. Yes, it's basically the same. I won't be able to tell the exact numbers though, because it's like freezing up.
Works for me. With the Panthers, just 244 total yards. Again, mentioned Dalton, only 175 passing yards. Had an interception. Also took 7 sacks, a couple of them being of the brutal variety, particularly one before a half that prevented them from even getting a field goal. Also lost 2 fumbles out there. And I don't think they're really... Okay, I've been calling everything a soft benching because I just think it's funny. I don't know if people actually thought like Andy Dalton and Bryce Young was a soft benching thing. You shouldn't have. And if you did, well, I think that's out the window now. This was, again, a brutal performance from Andy Dalton. We did at least see Tedero McMillan get 7 catches for 99 yards. He is now on pace for 1,088 yards. Unfortunately, those pair of touchdowns he scored against the Cowboys remain his only 2 of the season. So we did see Jalen Coker, Dwain, 3 catches, 36 yards out there. Did he get a boost in routes or no?
No. Well, I mean, it was about the same as last week. It's a little higher. I mean, but still, he's the slot receiver. 62% of his snaps came from the slot. He had a 78% route participation. So I do think last week it was like 55 or 60 or something like that. But it's Leggett and McMillan are the 2 main guys out there on the outside. McMillan actually had a 100% route participation today. They're just like, we're just not going to give any plays off. Probably a good idea. I will say Andy Dalton, even though he didn't look good, he knew to feed this man. 44% target share for McMillan today. That is a season high for him. He had 106 air yards. He accounted for 61% of the team's air yards. High ankle sprain, supposedly for Bryce Young, but he was kind of like getting around a little bit on the practice field last week. So not sure how much longer we'll see of Andy Dalton. As bad as he played from a standpoint of just turning the ball over and stuff today, my guess is that they go back to Bryce Young, once they have a chance.
100% agree there. Any sort of difference in the Jatavian Sanders, Tommy Tremble split, or are we still rotating things at tight end?
It's still a gross rotation. We did see a little bit of a bump for Jatavian Sanders. He got up to 53% route participation today. Last week, like he was down in the 30s. Tremble at 41%, and then Mitchell Evans, the rookie, 9%. So still just a situation we can't really touch.
As for the backfield, Dwain, this is a situation that, unfortunately, is growing even tougher and tougher to touch because they continue to not let us have good things, a.k.a. Rico Dowdle. So I know Chuba Hubbard's had some good times over the years, but just even the eye test at this point, Dwain, maybe Chuba is still working his way back from the injury. Like these guys, again, we kind of forget about the injury after a couple of weeks when they are playing through it. But just tough stuff because it sure looked like from sitting on my couch that Chuba Hubbard continues to be way more involved here.
Yeah, Chuba Hubbard today, it was worse. It was actually worse than what we got last week, Ian, which was not ideal. We complained about that as well. But he had 59% of the snaps, man. So almost 60% today. Now, the rushing attempts, not quite as far apart. Hubbard at 44% and Dowdle at 30%. And then you had a little bit going to ETN later in the game. Andy Dalton had a couple of design runs too. So that's why that's not adding up to 100% for you guys. But Chuba Hubbard also had more of the routes, 56% to 38% for Dowdle. Now, Dowdle did get 100% of the 2-minute offense, which was 6 snaps on today's game. But in 2 weeks, now with Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle together, these are their data points. Chuba Hubbard, 8.5 fantasy points per game, 57% of the snaps, 44% of the attempts, 52% routes, 7% targets. Rico Dowdle, 40% of the snaps, Ian, 8 fantasy points per game. So under Hubbard now, 42% of the attempts. And then he had 31% of the routes and only a 4% target share. So this is, so what we talked about last week, man. This is a Seattle V2. And especially in a game like this, where now they did remain run heavy despite being in a blowout loss. They threw the ball 24 times and still ran the ball 28 times. So that kind of tells you where their heads are at around their offense and their quarterback situation. But still, you see, like it's just tough, man. It's tough to score fantasy points and feel good about anything whenever you're having to split like this.
For those keeping count at home, Rico Dowdle this season averaging 5.7 yards per carry. Chuba Hubbard is at 3.6. So go ahead and keep doing you, I guess. Carolina, not going to feel too good about putting either guy in our fantasy lineup ahead of next week's matchup, in Lambeau against Micah Parsons and the Packers. That's going to be especially difficult, Dwayne, because we are looking at a Panthers offensive line that could be without 3 separate starters. Brady Christensen tore his Achilles. We think so. That's what the coach said. Done for the season. Taylor Moton dealing with the knee issue, and also Cade Mays, their center, dealing with an ankle injury. So again, already bad, looking like it's going to be even worse for Bryce Young, Andy Dalton, or whoever is going to be under center ahead of that tough matchup. Now, everyone, it is time for our Xfinity Game of the Week, brought to you by Xfinity. Imagine all your football all in one place. Easy. Xfinity, imagine that. We had the Jets get their first win of the season, 39-38 over the Cincinnati Bengals. Jets came in as 5.5-point dogs. Kudos to them for winning outright. Aaron Glenn's first professional win as a head coach, and he even got the over to cash with ease at 44. The only game of the week, Dwayne, not decided by double digits. So good for the Jets being able to actually go into their bye with a smile on their collective faces. And why not, man? 502 total yards for an offense that, honestly, I would have been surprised if they had 300 or so yards less than that, the way they've been playing this year. Justin Fields, obviously a big reason why. Look competent as a passer. I do think the fact that we've seen him look competent against the Steelers and the Bengals probably isn't a coincidence, Dwayne. I think when he faces these defenses that can't really get a pass rush going, they did not sack Fields even once out here. That was only his second career start when that happened. We actually can see him go through his progressions at half a second slower than most normal professional quarterbacks, and things work out from there. So only chipped in 31 rushing yards, but managed to give us 20.9 fantasy points on the season. Now he had 29.5 in week 1, 4 in week 2, had 2 more booms in weeks 4 and 5, 2 more performances under 5 in weeks 6 through 7, and again, 21 points in this one. So we'll see what happens with Tyrod Taylor coming back, Dwayne. The problem with trying to trust this, though, is the fact that when Tyrod is healthy and available, we know that benching's on the table, even though we know Fields can do good things every now and then.
Yeah, like he is the true boom bust player. Like there's not a more boom bust player than Justin Fields, and the bust component is highly combustible because of what you talked about. I mean, obviously just bad play alone can derail Fields, but the fact that they could just turn and go to Tyrod Taylor at any point, even if they decide this performance was good enough to say, yes, Justin Fields, he's going to get another start. They just won their first game. Like they're going to give him another start. Like it's happening, but by halftime it could Tyrod Taylor. So yeah, I'm with you. That just makes it like this situation where it's like almost just hard to even bother with rostering him. Like it's kind of like, I don't know. What's the point? But the point is, like, you can get the 28 fantasy points from him, but it's just going to be tough to trust the guy.
Because, I mean, even after this bye, man, Browns, Patriots, Ravens, Falcons, there's no team. There's no team that I feel confident with Justin Fields making.
There's not a Bengals on there.
No.
As far as the defense goes. I know the Browns have been bad, but their defense is a lot better than Bengals.
That's exactly it. Like we even saw him against the Cowboys and the Dolphins earlier this year. Yes, he got there eventually, but that was when he still had a little bit of a longer leash. I wouldn't be so confident that I get a chance to have those fourth quarter, heroics, as I'm, using my finger quotes, because heroics are down 3 touchdowns and just scoring fantasy points for us. But anyway, good for Justin Fields. Obviously been going through a lot this week with their owner being, a jerk off and all that. So still a fun moment to see there. That said, Dwayne, Justin Fields did not throw the game-winning touchdown. That was actually Breece Hall, his third total score of the day, chipped in 133 yards on the ground as well. Man, going into this game, Breece Hall had an NFL high 118 touches without a touchdown. The next closest player was at 42, so he was due, and man, did he come through. Again, it was against the Bengals, okay? When you're playing the Bengals or you're playing the Cowboys, take it with, a very, very small grain of salt. I get it, but hey, Breece Hall, Dwayne, as we've been saying all year, really, he's really good at football.
Yeah, I mean, and he's got a solid role, especially since Braylon Allen has been down. Like, he gets most of the rushing attempts for the team. We saw that continue today. He gave you 32.9 PPR points. So it continues to be Isaiah Davis, who also played really well today.
Yeah.
Like, Isaiah Davis made some good. Now, again, like the Bengals making a lot of running backs look good this year. But 44% of the snaps to Isaiah Davis, 46% route participation, but it was primarily Breece Hall leading the way on the ground. But man, Davis had 73% of that 2-minute offense and a 17% target share. So they do have this tandem going right now without Braylon Allen. But yeah, Breece Hall, man, like good player, good role, bad team. Like, I mean, and it can create these situations where you're like, oh man, like, you know, he's out there enough, he's playing plenty, and then you're like, you just give up. You're like, like I know he's got the role, I know he's good, but he's on the Jets and it sucks. And then as soon as you say that, he gives you 32.9 PPR points, just because that's the way fantasy football works. 17.9 PPR points for Davis today. Also very good, Ian.
Guys, NFL trade deadline is November 4th. Okay. So that's not this Tuesday, but it's next Tuesday. I'm just saying, Dwayne, Breece Hall's been caught up in a lot of these trade rumors. I would imagine with the Jets on a bye, people maybe aren't going to be exactly going out of their way to make sure they still have Isaiah Davis. It's someone already in roster a lot. No, it's not like if Breece Hall gets traded, we're all of a sudden going to be ranking Isaiah Davis as a top 10 running back. But you guys have multiple flexes. You're in 14-team leagues. Isaiah Davis, what I would say, is one of the preferred bench stashes out there right now because he already has solid handcuff upside. It's basically Kendra Miller all over again, Dwayne.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only difference is once Braylon Allen comes back, what does it look like then? Like he's probably in a split again. That's the only difference between him and what we have with Kendra Miller. But playing really well, man. And this is a guy that in the limited touches we saw last year also looked good. So I think all you can do at this point is say, okay, like he's in a decent role right now. He's for sure the handcuff until we get Braylon Allen back. He looks really good. There's also a chance honestly, he looks like the better player between he and Braylon Allen. I don't know that that's ultimately going to do anything for his playing time when Braylon Allen returns. But to me, like eye test, Isaiah Davis looks like the better player.
And remember, guys, on October 3rd, Aaron Glenn said Allen was expecting to miss 8 to 12 weeks. So we're looking at the earliest kind of being early December. The latest maybe being who even knows if Braylon Allen comes back this year. So good stuff from the running backs. Good stuff from Tyler Johnson catching an actually pretty nicely thrown flag route from Justin Fields. And then Mason Taylor for actually catching that game winner from Breece Hall. 5 catches, 34 yards, and a touchdown for Mason. Again, can't fully be trusting the overall upside of this passing attack. So that's going to prevent Mason Taylor, I would say, from soaring too high in the fantasy ranks. But hey, coming out of that bye, good matchup against the Patriots. Maybe he can mess around and give us another tight end 1 performance. Over with the Bengals, Dwayne, seemed like it was same old from Joe Flacco and company, aka force feeding Jamar Chase the freaking football man, and I love it. 54 targets in 3 games, Dwayne. 54. I couldn't do that in a video game, I don't think.
Yeah, man, it's fantastic. So here, let's just go through the stats real quickly with and without Flacco, the splits for the team this year. You already mentioned the targets. But for Jamar Chase in the games with Flacco, he's averaging 28.1 fantasy points per game with a 46% target share, almost getting half the targets. And just real quick, without him, it's 17.3 fantasy points. So he's still Jamar Chase. You still like him, but man, with Joe Flacco under center, Jamar Chase is even better. T. Higgins, 17 or 8.2 fantasy points per game without Joe Flacco. With him, 14.7. Not getting a ton of targets, Ian. And obviously, when you just heard the target share I said for Jamar Chase in the games with Joe Flacco, which is 46%, there's not a lot left. 17% target share for T. Higgins. But man, just working down the field today, he had a 28 ADOT. So I mean, I think he had 2 targets though, guys. He had 56 air yards. But he did catch a touchdown today. So T. Higgins doing a lot of the work down the field. But it's not just stopping with them, Ian. Like Chase Brown, suddenly a viable fantasy option.
Yeah. It's been great to see from Chase Brown, man. And look, this is also, it's 2 things, okay? Having Joe Flacco under center is helping, but it's also, as we did try to give Jake Browning a little bit of, credit and respect, like that was a hellacious schedule stretch they had to immediately deal with after that Joe Burrow injury. I do not think it's a, coincidence that, we're seeing the Bengals bring out their A game against the Jets and the lowly Steelers defense that, again, we saw get railroaded tonight. But Chase Brown, man, again, weeks 1 through 5, he was only averaging 2.5 yards per carry. That was dead last among like 40 plus qualified running backs. These last 3 weeks, though, Dwayne, 7 yards per carry on 32 totes. third best among all running backs behind only Jonathan Taylor and James Cook. The problem is Samaje Perine isn't exactly going away, which I appreciate because we had a couple teams in a sad enough state with buys and injuries where we actually had to start Samaje Perine. So thank you for the 94 yards and the touchdown. But okay, let's chill out and get this backfield back to Chase Brown already because, man, this is a little bit more split, I think, than Chase Brown managers would prefer to see.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to, because I mean, you know how coaches are, Ian. So like now that they're giving Perine more carries, Brown is playing better, and so like that can be like part of the psyche. We really don't know what they're going to do, guys, but it won't surprise me if they keep in this more of a limited role. And to be fair, that there could be something to that because Chase Brown looked terrible. It was probably mostly due to the Bengals being terrible, to Ian's point. But 25.5 fantasy points today. He's averaging 15.5 with Joe Flacco. It was 9.9 before Joe Flacco. So yes, you've got a very usable fantasy asset. Also to Ian's point though, in a timeshare here with Perine, 53% of the snaps to Chase Brown today, 43%, guys, only 10 percentage points separating these two guys, 43% to Perine, 55% of the rushing attempts to Brown versus 41% for Perine, 47% routes versus 39%. You guys get the picture. 9% target share for Brown, 3% for Perine. Perine gave you 17 fantasy points today. So this is more of a 55-45, Ian. It's kind of looked this way for 2 to 3 weeks now. So, and here's the other thing I'll say. I think maybe the biggest takeaway from this whole thing, other than, okay, Chase Brown looks a lot better now that Joe Flacco's out there. We've got some hope for the offense. I think it's that, like, Perine is, he's not just like the change of pace guy here. He's also like easily the handcuff at this point.
Yeah,
like, I mean, if something happened right now with Chase Brown and I had to project tomorrow what was going to happen with the Bengals backfield, I would project Perine as the lead back, not Taj Brooks. Like 3 or 4 weeks ago, we're like, we're not sure. Like it might just be Perine on the pass down because he wasn't playing near as much. And then it's going to be Taj Brooks coming in and taking the early down work. I think there's a pretty good chance that it's probably like 70% of this just all goes to Perine.
I mean, Perine's 5'11", 240, bro. He's not like your typical kind of scat back, pass downs because he's not big enough to play otherwise. People forget. All-time single game college football Division I rushing leader Samaje Perine out here. So that dude can't scoot when you want to give him the rock in the ground game. I know that was like a decade ago at this point, but yeah, show some respect to Samaje Perine. Get Taj Brooks off those deep league rosters. So next week going up against the Bears, Jamar Chase. Right now, Dwain pacing to actually tie Michael Thomas's single season reception record set back in 2019 at 149. Mr. 101 fulfilling his prophecy. T. Higgins is going to be an upside wide receiver 2 at worst. We're still going to be starting Chase Brown as a top 20 running back too. The only other guy I'm wondering about, did we see Noah Fant keep a full-time role with Tanner Hudson returning?
We did not. It was a rotation again. So yeah, he started off hot and I thought maybe it was happening because he had like 2 catches for 30 yards or something right away in the game, but he had a 42% route participation and a 9% target share.
Sad. Well, hey, one of these years, Dwain, maybe it's just going to be the 8th year breakout for Noah Fant. You know,
I should have known not to scroll to the next team yet, that you were going to have a Noah Fant question.
Yeah, come on, bro. It's Noah Fant. You know me better right now.
Yeah.
Bengals defensive end Trey Hendrickson did re-aggravate his hip. Let's face it, with or without Hendrickson, we're going to be feeling good about the shootout potential again for that Bengals Bears Week 9 matchup. Guys, this has been our Xfinity Game of the Week brought to you by Xfinity. Imagine all your football all in one place. Easy, Xfinity. Imagine that. Moving along, we had the Texans take down the San Francisco 49ers 26-15. Houston covered as a 2.5-point fave. The under cashed here at 41.5, as it seems to do with most Houston Texans games. But that said, shout out to CJ Stroud, 318 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. Did throw a pick, but man, he was up like the 168, I think, midway through the second quarter or so. So, I mean, Xavier Hutchinson had a nice 69 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Noel, 63 yards, caught it deep, like 40 or so yard post downfield. That was good to see. Jaden Higgins found the end zone. Dalton Schultz made a couple of plays. Braxton Berrios had 38 yards. Dwain, for the first time in a long time, this Houston Texans offense actually looked a bit capable. I will say, I think a lot of it has to do with this 49ers defense being so freaking injury-riddled at this point that it did bring out the best in the Houston Texans. But good to see this is still possible after, again, some really bad performances last week again, and then also throughout, the earlier weeks of September. What did we see from this wide receiver room, though, that was without Nico Collins due to a concussion and Christian Kirk due to a hamstring injury?
It is weird, to your point, though, to see, okay, you have the game without Nico Collins, and now suddenly everything really goes well. To your point, really good matchup. We also know that we can overrate matchups and things like that. So we talked about this last week, but CJ Stroud had the really down game last week, and we were both on the record as saying, like, we don't think CJ Stroud is bad, guys. Like, everything looks so hard for the Texans offense, but Stroud's still a good player. As far as the wide receivers go, you mentioned Higgins. He gave you 13.4 fantasy points today. He led the team in route participation at 81% with a 21% target share. He had 97 air yards today with a 12.1 average depth of target. Second on the team in routes was Xavier Hutchinson. He had a 79% route participation. He led the team in fantasy points, a 17.9 PPR points. He had a 16% target share. And then you had Jalen Noel. He was really splitting time in the slot with Berrios. So Noel was operating more as the vertical slot guy. And then you had Berrios coming out and doing more of the Wes Welker, little whip route, different stuff like that, when you need 3 or 4 yards to get a first down. So 45% route participation for Jalen Noel, but continues to look good, man. Like, caught a deep crosser in the first half, had a third down and 5, and he caught like an 8-yard slant in the second half, and he took a big hit and hung on to the ball. From my eyes, just watching what I saw today, I did not get to go back and watch these guys on film last week. Maybe you did, Ian, but man, Noel definitely looks like he's making some plays and potentially starting to grow. It'll be interesting to see what does the team do when they get, obviously when Nico Collins is back, we know Nico Collins is playing. So Jaden Higgins, like, he's probably gonna have to move back, to the bench unless they decide to play him over Hutchinson. But Noel, like, that's interesting. Like, Noel versus what they have with Christian Kirk. I don't know what they'll do, but he definitely looks like he's growing.
I thought Kirk looked fine with his opportunities, but hey, who's to say he's going to be the same guy coming back from that hamstring injury? And I am with you with Noel, honestly, looking pretty good over his last few weeks. I know a lot of people thought he was actually the superior Iowa State Cyclone based on what him and Higgins were doing as teammates. And, draft capital didn't exactly tell us that was the case. But again, good stuff seeing it from Noel either way. Unfortunately, man, with or without Nico Collins or Christian Kirk back in the lineup next week, I'm going to have a really tough time recommending any of these wide receivers with any minute amount of confidence ahead of a matchup against those Denver Broncos. So that's going to be a tough matchup. Would not be surprised if we see his Houston Texans offensive line get a bit overwhelmed in that one. But do keep an eye. In addition to those injuries, Berrios did have a chest injury. So, hey, maybe that could give a full-time role to Noel. And also Dalton Schultz did get banged up at one point. Didn't see if he did manage to return or not. Otherwise, Dwayne, just kind of same old between a Woody Marks, Nick Chubb split.
Yeah, pretty much similar to what we've seen over the last few weeks. Slight edge to Chubb today, which is not surprising because we actually saw a leading game script for the Texans, which is kind of the way it's gone. In these more shootout kind of situations or trailing situations, it goes to Marks. Whenever they get up, it's Chubb. But still, it was close, man. 43% snaps to 41. So, I mean, it was almost a dead even split, but 53% of the rushing attempts today to Chubb versus 34%. But, Marks got the passing down work, 41% routes to 21% in favor of Marks, and he had 11% target share, including a 50-plus yard reception today, Ian. So Marks scored 15.1 PPR points versus 8.9 for Nick Chubb. So continues to be a split, but knowing the way a lot of the game scripts have been going for, the Texans, it's just hard for me to rank Chubb ahead of Marks. I just feel like Marks has, like, Chubb needs such a perfect game script, and he needs the rushing touchdown to give you anything. Whereas I just feel like Marks isn't perfect, but I just feel like he has more outs along the way and can just kind of make it through more, volatile game scripts and still give you at least some production.
111 total yards for Woody Marks. Look, I don't feel great about starting either of these guys. Yeah. I agree with you. Like, I'm going to rank Marks ahead of Chubb and everything. Just a situation where, again, this whole offense, let's face it, even Nico freaking Collins, when he's been healthy, hasn't been able to give us consistent fantasy production. Hopefully Woody Marks can stabilize down the road, but again, not going to be surprised if he again fails to crack our top 24 ahead of week 9. Over with the 49ers, just 223 total yards of offense. Unfortunate fall off from the passing game, Dwayne. We saw Mac Jones in his first 4 starts throw for 279, 284, 342, and 347 yards before last week's 152 and then this week's 193. So had 3 drops out there, took 2 sacks. I don't think it's, all on Mac Jones. Also has had to deal with, some tougher defenses over these last 2 weeks in the Texans and the Falcons. But I think he has, put to rest some of those concerns about, Kyle Shanahan's wandering eye regarding Brock Purdy getting back into action. So hopefully we do see Purdy back sooner rather than later. We are going to see the 49ers traveling to New York to take on the Giants next week. So we'll keep an eye on that. But otherwise, man, just, I guess, any thoughts on the passing game? It was an unfortunate dud from Christian McCaffrey. You usually don't see those out there. Only 43 receiving yards and 25 rushing yards. But yeah, again, overall, just a disappointing performance from the entire 49ers offense.
Yeah, pretty much status quo here. CMC, you already mentioned 96% of the snaps, guys. I mean, sometimes you're going to have a bad day at the office. I mean, he had 100% of the rushing attempts today. He gave you 9.8 PPR points. Juwan Jennings and Kendrick Bourne were the top two wide receivers, 81% routes for Jennings, 83% for Bourne. It was Jennings again, leading the way with a 23% target share. And then on National Tight End Day, George Kittle did catch his touchdown. Ian, pretty sure the second one was targeted for him. Jake Tonjes reached up and grabbed, so it would have been an even better day. But hey, it was still nice. Like George Kittle in the box score, 14.3 fantasy points. We'll take it. Just, 16% target share. Come on, Mac Jones. Do you not know who George Kittle is? Like you're having to throw the ball to Kendrick Bourne, for crying out loud. Like you have George Kittle on your team, you freak.
I'm with you. I think it was intended for Kittle. That said, Dwayne, I think it was thrown behind. It might have been picked off if Tonjes didn't go ahead and take matters into his own hands. So, National Tight End Day, both tight ends got one. We'll forgive you for your fantasy sins this week, Jake Tonjes. But otherwise, guys, Juwan Jennings, 80 unrealized air yards out there, did come down with a contested catch. He's looked healthier and more like himself over these past couple of weeks. That said, I don't know how much longer he's even going to be the one. As we all know, Ricky Pearsall still working his way back from injury. And Brandon Ayuk, we did actually hear from Kyle Shanahan saying he could have his practice window opened up as early as next week. So again, hey, no Pearsall, no Ayuk. We'll probably have Jennings and Bourne both in that, lower end wide receiver 3 conversation. Just too tough to be overly high on the guys, particularly with George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey being the de facto 1-2s in this passing game. Guys, let's move on to the Ravens and Bears. First, though, I want to give you a quick shout out and let you know you can get a free year's worth of Fantasy Life Plus only for a few more days. I know you've been hearing us talk about this a lot, but hey, it's over at the end of October. So if you haven't cashed in, do it now. Go to fantasylife.com/comment, download the comment browser by Perplexity, and you will get a full year of Fantasy Life Plus for free, okay? Comment browser by Perplexity, very cool AI sidekick sort of deal, okay? It's a little bit of a, just new way of looking at, our new superpowered search engine and all that. So again, love everything they're doing. That's why we're partnering with them. But yeah, a free year of Fantasy Life Plus. All you have to do is go to fantasylife.com/comment. Dwayne, the Ravens took down the Bears 30-16, Baltimore covering with ease as 2.5-point faves, the over cash at 45. Former Pro Bowl QB Tyler Snoop Huntley, 186 yards and a touchdown, chipped in 53 on the ground. Just continuing to prove why the hell, I guess, just disprove, I guess would be the better way of putting it. Like, why did the Ravens ever do anything with Cooper Rush from the start of the season? Regardless, he is now the backup quarterback. Hopefully, this will be his last spot start. We are tentatively hearing that Lamar Jackson is expecting to start ahead of Thursday's game against the Miami Dolphins. So hopefully we do get Lamar back, Dwayne, because how's this for you? Zay Flowers, career high yards per route run. Zay Flowers, career high targets per route run. Zay Flowers just hasn't scored a touchdown since week 1. We're getting Lamar back. Let's buy low on Zay Flowers, Dwayne. You with me?
Yeah, I mean, look, we were talking about Zay Flowers this last week. Now, part of it was due to the bye weeks, but we thought that we were getting Lamar back, and we were in on it. And like the rest of season projection model, I have to tell, the projection model every week. I have to have a talk with it. I'm like, hey, man, you're a little high on Zay Flowers. I'm gonna have to manually override you. Don't make me do this to you. But the biggest thing is just he doesn't get the touchdowns. Everything else is there, and again, he's a little bit trapped here in the low average depth of target thing. Today that was not bad. 10.8, it was fine. I think the frustrating thing for like you and me is we watch Zay Flowers a lot, and we can see that he can do everything. We can see that he can beat people in the short area of the field. He can beat people in the intermediate area of the field. I'm not saying like he's like the best deep threat like on the planet, but like he's good enough, dude. Like he can put people in a blender and he can get over the top of a defense. They just don't always use him that way. And the Ravens are one of these teams, man. They kind of seem to have like their role they want everyone to play, and they rotate guys a decent amount. Now Flowers is mostly he's a full-time player. A lot of the other guys they rotate, but like Bateman's the guy they want to run the down the field routes, right? And then Hopkins is the guy they want to use when they get in the red or the green zone. And then Andrews and Likely, I don't know. You tell me what they want to do with Andrews and Likely. Like that's a guessing game every freaking week, man. But Flowers, definitely the most talented pass catcher on this team. And yes, I do agree. Getting Lamar Jackson back like that definitely put some upside back out there for him. 14.1 PPR points today with Huntley. So
I'll check out the schedule. I'll check out some of the trades going around, because sometimes, it's one of these like, oh, buy low on them. Then you actually look and see what people are valuing them at. And guess what? You can't really.
It doesn't matter though. You should, if the whole, I hate that crap. Like, and I do the same thing you do. I go look at it. But the point being is if a guy is actually underperforming what we think he can do, go see what you can get in your league. It's like you say,
yeah.
Ian, worst thing that can happen is you get laughed at in your freaking group chat. Everybody says you're a complete idiot, but you could also be the guy feeling great because everybody's laughing at your buddy who traded away Zay Flowers to you for absolutely nothing. So I would say, who cares what everyone else is getting? Just go make a trade offer. If you don't get them, you don't get them. But the whole point is, like, there's a chance that someone's going to undervalue a player that, like, we're highlighting for you, just because typically we see that their underlying data says they should be scoring more fantasy points than what they are.
And I do actually think Zay Flowers can be had at an affordable cost. All right. Like, I was a quick caveat when I was saying to go buy Derrick Henry over the last few weeks. That's more of a, you're going to have to buy him kind of high, but go ahead and go get him anyway. And we did see that come to fruition today. 2 touchdowns on the ground. Decided to start giving him the ball at the goal line instead of, running tush pushes with Mark Andrews. Dwain, what a thought. Get ready for more, though, everyone. Derrick Henry, career yards per carry, okay? September, 4.3. October, 4.7. November, 4.9. December, 5.2, and January 5.4. Winter is coming and the big dog is ready. By the way, that tight end room, Dwain, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, how dare you leave out Charlie Kohler, who actually got to catch the touchdown today.
Catch the touchdown.
Gotta love when that happens. So again, Ravens, Dolphins on Thursday night. Hopefully Miami brings their A game and we could have a fun one there. Over to the Bears. Dwain, through 8 weeks of the 2024 season, the Bears had their bye, 7 games. They scored 163 points. Through 8 weeks of the 2025 season, they have scored 168 points. Caleb has better numbers. He's averaging an extra yard per attempt. Their run game has looked significantly better since coming back from the bye. Overall, though, underwhelmed. You're definitely not overwhelmed. How underwhelmed are you by the Ben Johnson effect in Chicago so far?
Yeah, that's kind of surprising, actually. Like, and I guess some of that can come down to is that just offense? Is that their total points with their defense?
I cheated a little bit. There's an extra 10-point difference, but it's not huge.
Okay. Yeah. I would be interested in looking at some of the other underlying data points, just as far as how often they're on schedule, success rate, that kind of stuff, just to kind of look at it. But I still think it's a plus because here's what I would say. Do you feel better about starting DeAndre Swift this year? Yes, you do. Mm-hmm. Do you feel better about starting Caleb Williams this year? Yes, you do. Do you feel better about starting DJ Moore this year? Hell no. Do you feel better about starting Rome Odunze this year?
Yeah.
Yes. So we have 3, for me, for fantasy. I feel like we have 3 weapons that we feel like we can depend on here. And I think that's a positive thing. So overall, I would say it's better, but I am kind of surprised to hear those numbers that close, to be honest with you.
It's just one of those things, man, where even last year, too, we saw before their bye, I think they were beating up on the Rams and the Jaguars and some of these bad defenses. And we saw that come to fruition early on this year, okay? That Cowboys game, the Washington game, a couple of weeks ago. And just, I know the Ravens had a bye week. I know this is, every game for them is a playoff win, and they are getting healthier on defense. But just, man, couldn't throw for a touchdown. And there's that, seeing that hold it back at the end of the game too, man. Caleb running a QB sneak off tackle and just getting pulverized, having a wide open DJ Moore, missing that. Again, nothing looks easy in this offense still, and we're going into week 9 at this point. So I'm happy the run game's doing better. You mentioned DeAndre Swift, RB12 in PPR points per game. That's awesome. Rome Odunze had back over 100 yards. He's on pace for 1,112 touchdowns. That's fantastic to see. But just, again, the fact that they can't get anything going with DJ Moore. We had Colston Loveland, a top 10 talent, where even if the Bears weren't going to pick him 10th, this dude was not going to make it out of the top 15 or so picks. Only 38 yards without Cole Kmet. Luther Burden got concussed, couldn't do much. It's just unfortunate, Dwain. So I don't really have much more else on the Bears, but I just wish that we were seeing more fireworks by now.
Yeah, I have a couple notes, but I think the first thing that's kind of interesting, is think how bad we feel whenever we make a bad first round pick in fantasy. Imagine, and I'm not saying Caleb Williams is a bad pick, but imagine, I'm sure they're looking at it now and they're going, oh my God, Drake May's awesome. I mean, seriously, think how huge that is for an NFL franchise. We get sick about it and we play a stupid game where you're betting, you have somewhere between $50 and $300 most of the time on a league. Maybe you got some high stakes $2,000 leagues, but most people don't have a lot of those. And it drives you nuts all season. They have to live with these sort of decisions. This is like a 3 to 5 year impact on these things, and so much money and so much tied up in it's just, dude, it's if you think about the ramifications of it and the fans and everyone. Anyway, so it's definitely, better than last year. But the big thing, I saw 2 notes real quick on the Bears today. Number one, we saw this really close split again between Swift and Monangai. Now, Swift still did his thing. He gave you 15.1 PPR points today. And they did continue to lean into, actually, no, they got away from that run heavy game plan that we saw the first 2 weeks out of the bye. 38 pass attempts, 23 rush attempts. Now, part of that was due to the trailing game script. We'll see what DBOE has to say about it tomorrow. But Monangai, man, 45% of the snaps versus 50% for Swift. So that's 2 weeks in a row where they've been right there neck and neck. Now, more rushing attempts for Swift, again, 52% to 33%. But today we actually saw the route participation get a little bit closer between the two, 37% for Monangai, 34% for Swift. So I don't know if some of this is to do with Swift battling some injuries over the last couple of weeks, Ian, being on the injury report, ultimately getting healthy enough to be out there. But again, just something to kind of keep an eye on. Swift, like I said, still came through for you today, but it's definitely tightening up versus what we saw before. And the other note would be Colson Loveland. We did not have Cole Kmet today, so Colson Loveland did play a full-time role. He was the lead tight end with a 78% route participation. Only a 14% target share in this one. Lower ADOT, not using him as much like down the field, doing some vertical things we saw him do in college. Ian, only a 6.6 average depth of target. 6.8 fantasy points, but he was pretty much like the full-time tight end today without Cole Kmet.
Cole Kmet, I do not believe practiced at all last week, and Bears are going to be traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. So, hey, I feel great about them facing the Bengals. I feel good about every offense facing the Bengals. We'll see what happens again in future weeks after that if they can't round in the form. But yes, Kyle Monangai, guys, one of these guys where in a pinch, if you need to start him in your flex, we can actually wrap our heads around the potential for 10 opportunities per game these days. And also, again, we have that sky-high handcuff upside. Roshan Johnson nowhere to be found. Let's move on to those Drake May-led Patriots. Dwain continuing to go out there and do their thing. They took down the Browns 32-13 to improve to 6-2 in the year 2025. What a time to be alive. Patriots covered as 7-point faves, over cash at 40.5. This game was 30-7 Patriots at the end of the third quarter. So again, wasn't exactly close down the stretch, but man, Drake May took 6 sacks, 5 of which came with the hands of Myles Garrett, but never flustered him. Actually had a week high 11.5 yard average target depth. He's even said after, some of these games in his post-game interviews that, he doesn't want to be a check down Charlie. And Lord, has he not been, through another 3 touchdowns today. On the season, Dwain, best completion rate in the NFL, second best EPA per dropback, second best passer rating, third best yards per attempt, fourth best explosive pass play rate, and an offense that is a little better than last year. I still think we get comfortably to like 20 offensive environments we prefer versus the Patriots. It's incredible, man. Just seeing, again, we knew he had the tools and everything, but I just thought there'd be such a bigger learning curve for this dude to actually, lead the freaking NFL in completion rate. Incredible, man. And he's looking like easily the late round quarterback of the season, but this dude's looking like he could have one of those, I think it was 2020 when Josh Allen finished like second in the MVP race. I think that's on the table here.
Yeah, and he pushes the ball down the field, Ian. Yards per attempt are insane. And if you're looking for one stat, like one singular player, stat that correlates the most with winning in the NFL, it's passing yards per attempt. And that's what we're seeing from Drake May. Dude, he's carrying the entire team on his back. Like, there's just no way around it. This is a second-year player that basically just says, all right, everybody, hop in the pack. I'm here. I'm going to carry you. And he's just making it happen. Now, if you look at Stephon Diggs, doing some nice things, but ultimately, man, dude, he does not. It's not like he's surrounded by all these playmakers, man. He is making this happen. So Drake May, guys, now this was before the late games today, but I had sent out a tweet that he was the QB4 in fantasy for the season now, Ian, at 21.6 fantasy points per game. So he's averaging 253 passing yards per game. That's 7th. 1.9 passing touchdowns per game. That's 7th. 0.4 interceptions per game. That's 7th best. 31.6 rushing yards per game. That's 8th best. So he's doing, he's not first in any of these things, but he's top 7 or 8, in every single category, especially the ones we care about for fantasy. And the last 3 weeks, man, 27.2, 23.1, 26.6 fantasy points. And I see people he's beating up on bad teams. I'm like, I get it, but are the Browns really a bad defense, guys? I get it. Their offense turns the ball over, gives short fields to, the opposing team. There's definitely an aspect to that, but it's not. You just talked about Myles Garrett. He's a madman. It's not like the Browns actually have bad personnel. Like Drake May can't go out and have a bad game and expect to be the Browns. I'll say that. Like you can't expect to like beat that defense if you're not on your A game. And so, yeah, man, I am so impressed. I mean, we liked him, like you said, like as a low end QB1 with upside. To think that he had this much upside, obviously, like the archetype was there, but you don't ever know for sure which ones are going to hit. And he is just hitting in such a huge way. Like if you had to start a franchise today, Ian, is it at the point like where Drake May's in your top 6 quarterbacks?
Off the cuff, yeah, I think he is.
Yeah, I think he is for me too. Yeah, I threw that question out there, and I mean, you know how it is. People are there's like no in between on Twitter. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's QB1." I'm like, okay, like probably a little break tab. We do still have Josh Allen, some of these guys, but at his age, I mean, maybe you make the argument. But yeah, playing fantastic. I guess the biggest thing for us is who cares? It's fantasy football, and he's balling out.
I'm always afraid to, just do those countdowns like live on a show because I'm afraid I'll forget someone. But just again, Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, of course, Justin Herbert, I would say has earned it. Sure. Joe Burrow, I'd probably still lean Burrow, but just if you wanted to make the argument with some of the injuries and maybe just Drake May, the best version of him, perhaps having a higher ceiling, hell, whatever, don't. But you said top 6.
Jaden Daniels or Drake May?
I'll take Drake May.
Yeah, I think it's close. I mean, what we saw Jaden do in the playoffs last year was insane. So we know he's got ice in the veins too. But yeah, May's balling. So that's the point. Like he's there. He's on the short list, man.
Yeah. Multiple passing touchdowns in 6 of his last 7 games. He's ran for 62 yards and now 50 in these last 2. And that's the kind of hilarious part, Dwayne. We honestly haven't seen as big of a rushing, I think, just impact as we thought we were maybe going to get. Hasn't mattered because of how good this dude has been as a passer. So found Kayshon Boutte for another touchdown, guys, in his last 3 games now. He's gone 93 yards and 2 scores, 55 yards in a score. Today, 75 yards and a touchdown on only 12 total targets. So that would just be the one issue here, Dwayne, whether it's Stephon Diggs, Boutte, or Hunter Henry. We know there's going to be production to go around because, again, all those good things we just said about Drake May, but just tough to be overly confident in any one party because, yeah, they're spreading the ball around and we're not exactly getting these games, with 40 pass attempts.
Yeah, guess who led the team in target share today, Ian?
Your favorite.
Matt Collins. The no-shoe bit returns, 30% target share today. Matt Collins, he has one game every year. He gave you 15.9 PPR points. So now you mentioned it, like with Boutte. Look, the one positive thing I'll say with Boutte today is like he'd kind of been in this like rotation where he was like at a 70% route participation these last few weeks. Today he was at 91%. So he was a full-time wide receiver. He had a 22% target share. The luck has eventually got to run out on one hand. On the other hand, like we like Drake May and he's playing well. And so sometimes you just get these guys that can come along for the ride, Ian. Like, yeah. And I think Boutte's the guy right now. Boutte's the guy that's along for the ride, and he's not going to catch a touchdown every single week, obviously, but with how well Drake May's playing, like how many does Boutte even have on the year now? It's got to be, what has he got? 6 or 7? It's got to be getting up there.
5.
He's got 5. So he's probably finishing the year with 10 touchdowns. Like he's probably going to catch another 5. Like, I mean, Drake May trusts him in those situations and he gets these deep shots.
He's firmly a boomer bust wide receiver 3 and he's booming. It's great.
Yeah. I would say boomer bust wide receiver 4. That's probably where, if you just looked at his utilization score, on a week like this week with all the teams on bye, which we're going to have another week with a lot of teams on bye. Yeah. More of the boom bust wide receiver 3 in those weeks.
Stephon Diggs, a little bit downgrade, wide receiver 3 area, just kind of haven't really seen him take off when we thought we was going to. He's playing great in real life. Drake May threw the ball 24 times today, man. That really has just been the one issue here, as much as they can't really run the ball, so they have to throw it. But these last couple of games, man, 24 pass attempts today, 23 last week, 26 before. We've only seen him pass more than 30 times once since week 1.
Yeah, 11.8 yards per attempt. like Drake May just does this every freaking week. Well, here's the thing with Diggs. We just haven't seen the route participation improve. So today was 65%. So it just feels like for right now. Now, again, guys, these things can happen in stages. Remember, for the first 4 weeks, he didn't get over a 50% route participation. There was 1 week where he did. And now we're kind of in this zone where he's between 65 and 80% route participation. We've gone through this with players in the past. And then suddenly we'll see them emerge, Ian, and they'll go on and be, 80 to 90%. we kind of thought we might be reaching that territory for Diggs here, like this week, last week, who knows, maybe it's next week. But for right now, he's just kind of stuck on this plateau where he's not getting that full time, where he's the best receiver on the team. Like still, he caught his touchdown today, which was nice because I know you had just brought up the other day, like he didn't have his touchdown catch yet. So I think the upside's still there, but yeah, like where we rank him, on a week to week basis, like he's a wide receiver 3. We were kind of hoping to be able to say, hey, mid-range wide receiver 2.
Last point here, Dwain. The backfield, 75 yards for Travion Henderson in a professional football game, and maybe got in Vrabel's good graces by losing a fumble. Like, can we start to get excited here, Dwain?
Yeah, man, we can't. I don't know. I mean, can we? I mean, I looked up after the first drive, the guy had 30 yards rushing, and I was like, oh, awesome. Like he's finally going to do this. And then at the end of the game, I went to, look everything up again. He had 22% of the snaps. Mike Vrabel, he came out and played great on the first drive, and the response from the coaching staff was bury him. 22% of the carries, 36% or 22% of the snaps, 36% of the rushing attempts, only a 9% route participation. Ramondre Stevenson dominated again, man. 72% of the snaps, 71% of the routes, like all the 2-minute offense, all the work inside the 5, which was only like 3 or 4 snaps, something like that. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing we can do right now. But did you say Hendo fumbled?
Yeah, it's good.
It should be good in this environment, right? Yeah. I know what you're saying, since Stevenson fumbles every week, but yeah.
We're just Drake and joshing around. We like to have fun here on the Fantasy Life show. But yeah, he lost at like the 6-yard line. So obviously not ideal. But Terrell Jennings was mostly just in, a couple carries at the very end. So Henderson is still the 1B. He is starting to ramp up the efficiency overall, guys, because that was one of the points when we were sitting here crying a few weeks ago. It was like, well, we can't exactly be like, oh my gosh, why don't you play him more? Because Henderson didn't have very good numbers in his own right. He is now up to 4.3 yards per carry this season. Stevenson's at 3.4, bro. He converted 14 carries and 34 yards today. I know the Browns have a great run defense, but he had a good game against the Titans last week, got completely shut down against the Saints and Bills. Like, you just got to try something different at some point. I will give Stevenson credit. Look good as a receiver today. Almost made this sick contested catch, for a touchdown, only got 1 foot down in bounds. But again, just something a little closer to 50-50. You could dream, but unfortunately, to Dwayne's point, that's all we're going to be able to do with Travion Henderson for the time being. Over to the Browns, Dwayne. Don't need to waste a ton of time on them because, it is the Browns, respectfully, Browns fans. They're also, more importantly, are on a bye. And let's face it, in this passing game, Jerry Jeudy, my weekly disclaimer, now at an NFL high 54 targets without a touchdown on the season. He got a goose egg. Isaiah Bond, week high, 94 unrealized air yards. He did not record a reception. Just this entire offense's inability to get the ball to their wide receivers, like even once or twice, is honestly amazing to me. Dylan Gabriel's the only quarterback in the NFL averaging under 5 yards per attempt this season. It's nice when they design things for Harold Fannin, but apparently he had an undisclosed injury going on there. So we'll see what happens there. But it's Fannin and Njoku in the passing game, Dwayne. But unfortunately, we can't even fully appreciate Fannin because Njoku's too much of a freaking badass to go ever miss time.
Yeah, Fannin 18.4 fantasy points today, 71% route participation. Like you said, we'll have to wait and see on the injury. But then Njoku, 13.7 PPR points with a 58% route participation. Fannon's going to be a superstar, though. That's what I can say. Long term, Harold Fannin Jr. is going to be a superstar tight end. I do think a key is Stefanski. I like having Stefanski here. I know things haven't been great, but I do worry, like, you get the wrong coordinator over here that sees him as a guy that can't play full time. We've already seen Stefanski use him that way. That's the one risk, but man, the guy plays really well, Ian. I think the biggest news to talk about here is Mr. Quinshon Judkins. We do have the bye, as you mentioned. So he has the shoulder injury. Hopefully he is well, because Quinshon's been really good this season, but after the Judkins injury, it was Dylan Sampson as the clear-cut running back 1, and that was over a 5-drive period. So Sampson had 7.9 fantasy points over that. 73% of the rushing attempts, 73% of the snaps, 75% of the attempts, and 68% route participation. Now, this game was out of hand, so we can never directly say these things are 1 for 1. But earlier in the year, we didn't see Sampson necessarily getting this treatment. We were seeing a little bit more of Ford, even though Sampson was the guy scoring the fantasy points. So I think if you have to put a chip down, and don't forget, they are on bye, but if I'm trying to grab someone, or maybe you're the Quinshon Judkins manager, I know it sucks to have to try to grab some kind of backup whenever you got, the teams that we're about to have on bye. What do we have? 4 teams on bye this week, Ian?
4 more,
Browns, Jets, Eagles, Bucks, are on bye this week. So I know it's not great, but man, like the shoulder injury with Judkins, it did knock him out of the game. I mean, we may not have him back after the bye. And so I do think if we had to put a chip down, Sampson is the guy that we want in the Browns backfield.
As you guys know, I'm not a doctor. I do not like it, though, when running backs, especially ones that run as physically as Judkins, are dealing with these shoulders or rib injuries. Just seems like, it's sure can be a pain tolerance thing. But guess what? Playing running back is very freaking painful. Hopefully, again, he gets well rested after that bye, because certainly, man, can't lose Scatterbo and Judkins in 1 week, Dwayne. We're talking about 2 of probably the most entertaining rookie rushers of the ball this year. Get better, Mr. Judkins. Do have some other injuries on the Browns defense in particular. Hopefully, they get healthier, but they're stud rookie linebacker Carson Schwensinger, also their safety Rashawn Jenkins, and cornerback Tyson Campbell all banged up as well. So hopefully, again, they can get healthy in their bye. Let's move on to some late afternoon action. We got blessed with 3 games. I don't know why the NFL refused to give us 4. It's called a quad box for a freaking reason. Either way, the Buccaneers beat the Saints 23-3. Tampa Bay covered with ease as 3.5-point faves. Under cash here at 46.5. So this was a 17-point game beginning of the 4th. The Saints went ahead and pulled Spencer Rattler for Tyler Shuck. Never really was all that competitive. So Baker Mayfield, really his least productive day of the season. Didn't have to put a lot on his plate, but just 152 passing yards, no touchdowns. Did have 3 drops out there, but also took 3 sacks and didn't even get any fun scrambles, Dwayne. So unfortunate game. And as you guys can guess, without any touchdowns or big times yards, another dud for Emeka Egbuka, just 35 scoreless yards. He has only averaged now 39 yards per game over his last 3. One was limited with the hamstring injury. I do wonder if that is still limiting him just a tad. Hopefully he will get fully healthy there after the bye. Otherwise, though, Dwayne, did we see Tez Johnson in a full-time role with no Mike Evans?
Yeah, just real quick on Egbuka. Like, it's just a bad day for the offense. Like, he had 99 air yards today, 38% target share, 96% route participation. So I do think Egbuka is going to be fine. I think the bye week will obviously be good, get him back healthy. But yes, it was Tez Johnson. Actually led the team as far as the wide receiver, as far as the pass catchers go with fantasy points. And it was a whopping 9.3, Ian, but 94% route participation. Yeah. 94% route participation, man. 25% target share, 45 air yards, 7.5 average depth of target. It'll be interesting to see what happens whenever if we get Chris Godwin back. We really don't know what's happening with Chris Godwin, guys. Like, we don't have any news. He's not on IR. Like, that's the one thing we can say. They didn't put him on IR. So that makes me think they at least think, he could be back the week after the bye. If not, wouldn't they have gone ahead and done that? Who knows? It's the freaking Bucs. But Tez really brings like a different element than what Chris Godwin does. Like, so I could really still see Tez probably not going to have a 94% route participation, Ian, once we get Godwin back, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it still like around 75%.
Yeah.
Because I think he's still going to get some of those outside reps, still whenever they want to threaten, the vertical parts of the field, especially on routes where they don't want to send Egbuka deep because they're sending him deep quite a bit. Like, I just feel like Tez is still going to be like their best chance to have like a playmaker right now, because Sterling Shepard, underneath guy, Chris Godwin, underneath guy, Egbuka showing us like really he can do everything, but like Otten, underneath player, Rashad White, underneath player. Like, so it's like they need something else to help loosen things up for Egbuka. And it feels like Tez is really that guy. But the 25% target share today, that was pretty impressive because we've seen the big plays from him, but we haven't seen him really put up a strong target share. Obviously the box score, not what you had hoped for with 9.3, but it wasn't terrible. But look, when Mayfield throws for 152, it's tough to score fantasy points.
And for the record, I would put Egbuka's struggles first and foremost on Baker. There were multiple big plays at Detroit that I thought Baker was actually the one you probably could have been pointing the finger at. Even today, man, he had a ball that was a little high in his mitts. I would say good coverage more than anything, but another near miss touchdown there. And then that hamstring injury. So yes, Egbuka, absolute stud. He just has not had a very good last 3 weeks and, was pacing to have one of the greatest rookie seasons ever.
Maybe make a trade offer. Just because he's on bye, like somebody's in a jam, they think that the rookie hot streak's over. I mean, I think we'd probably struggle to make, like, we would still be recommending buy him. But like, just with Evans out, as long as he's going to be out, man, the runway is just so clear for Egbuka. And like, who knows, like Chris Godwin could be washed for the year.
Love that call. Kate Auden almost had a touchdown. Air Auden, I was so ready to tweet at Dwain because he just took off from like the 4-yard line trying to reach out, but
He broke a
unfortunately
great
got
tackle
tackled just short of the goal line. He did break a great tackle,
by
man.
Demario
Whenever they need this dude to step up, he can go ahead and go make some plays. So again, if we get Godwin back and hopefully Bucky Irving back after the bye, it's going to be a little more scrunch for Kate Auden. But kudos to him for at least giving us some usable weeks during our respective bye week hells. This running game, though, Dwain, Rachaad White got banged up a little early, but I'm not sure if I've seen this. We had one drive feature 5 different instances, 3 to Rachaad White, 2 to Sean Tucker, actually 6 total, 3 to Tucker if you include an offsides play where they got stopped at the 1-yard line, eventually got turned over on downs. Just, again, 5 separate times, 6 if you count the offsides, where these running backs could not get the ball into the end zone. So very shishy occurrence. If you know, I'm sure there's going to be tons of fantasy managers who lost their matchup by less than a touchdown because Rachaad White couldn't get it for him. Just know this is even more painful that he had 3 separate opportunities to do so and could not get it done. I don't think it's fully on him. I mean, you saw the plays, and that can be the case a lot of times at the goal line. It's just a freaking brick wall. Bucs running backs only average, 0.45 rushing yards before contact on the week. Let me tell you what, that is a very low number. So hopefully, Dwayne, this is all a moot point, and we get Bucky Irving back after the bye. But this was a lot more involvement from Sean Tucker than we're used to seeing.
Yeah, but it was also a blowout script, So I mean, the Bucs defense won the day today. Like the Bucs defense, was how they won this game 23-3. So I don't really think there's very much that we can take away from it. The one thing I'll say about Rachaad White is, like, stylistically, the kind of runner he is, it can be problematic if you're playing a defense that's just hyped up and like sticking you, because he's always slow and moving side to side. Like, you're just kind of like, hey man, down here, like, just freaking take the ball and just, like, who cares? Ram it into the back of your offensive lineman or something. Like, just go forward. And dude, like that one play, like, he had a wide open hole and he was so freaking slow to it. And then he goes across the goal line in that upright running style, dude. He got smacked. Like, that should have been a touchdown. That one was definitely on him. If he just gets north-south immediately, Rachaad White, he's a big dude, man. He scores a touchdown on that. That's where that Lev Bell kind of running style is not quite working out for him.
Respectfully, Dwayne, I don't think like there's many 16-year-olds out like, hey, you guys want to fire up some Rachaad White highlights? You guys want to get crazy? I don't think they're getting the Tavon Austin treatment like we were back in the day. So yeah. All Rachaad White slander aside, 6-2 Buccaneers. He's had some good games before this. We'll see what happens there after their bye. With the Saints, I picked the wrong week to start hyping up Spencer Rattler, Dwayne, because he just got his ass benched there after throwing a pick. He lost a fumble. I will say, I mean, the pick was basically just a sweet play by Anthony Nelson going out there and snagging. And even the fumble, like, he was trying to dive and pick up yards. It wasn't like sitting in the pocket, just completely unaware. So honestly, I was kind of surprised to see him pull, because again, the Bears game sucked, but we know over it. Like, that was his first like truly bad game. Maybe they're just like, okay, we're now at 1-7. He hasn't been winning football games, and at some point that does need to fall on the quarterback. But it was a little bit surprising to me.
Yeah, it was to me too. And he was still 15-21 for 136 yards, 6.5 yards per attempt versus Shuck at 4.3. So they were essentially like the Spider-Man meme. 136 passing yards from Rattler, 128 from Shuck, no touchdowns for either, 1 pick for each. They both had 3 rushes for 12 yards. Like, they had almost the exact same stat line, except that Rattler's yards per attempt were much better. So here's the problem though. Like, Rattler was, he's really been ascending over the last several weeks. Like we said, like, look, he's not like he's a Pro Bowl player, guys, but like kind of grooving a little bit, like he's getting to know the offense. Like, we start to see these ceiling games from Olave, see some nice things from Shaheed. So if we suddenly have to deal with Shuck, man, like I'm not super excited about that for Chris Olave, like, just because we know that it's been working with Rattler. And I think as far as Rattler goes, is it kind of like the Justin Fields thing now that we know they're willing to just pull him and put Shuck in, even if we hear Rattler's still the starter. And if it's going to be a game script like this, well, guess what the Saints play in? Game scripts like this, they're like the Jets. They're 1-7. They have the same record as the Jets. So that's problematic. I use Rattler on like 10 DFS lineups today, Ian. And so it was just kind of easy to like just flush it all down the toilet. I was just like, once I saw Shuck in the game, I was like, I don't need to pull this up anymore. I can close this app. So yeah, I was surprised like you were though, because I do think that Rattler's played pretty good.
So again, Shuck went out there, made a couple big throws. He's got a big arm and everything. He's mobile. Like, I'm not saying that he's not going to work out as a prospect. I just thought Rattler had kind of been doing enough to maybe hold off the rookie for a bit longer. But alas, Kellen Moore did say when asked about who will be starting at QB moving forward, quote, "We'll make that evaluation quickly." Hopefully that is the case and we don't get, some Aaron Glenn sort of hijinks going on here. Stay tuned with that. Otherwise, man, yeah, like we'll just have to kind of see what happens with these quarterbacks. It is going to be a downgrade for Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Jawan Johnson, and everyone if we are going to be seeing Shuck under center, just at least in the near term. Because again, as much as Rattler wasn't blowing the door off of people, we still could feel at least somewhat confident about 200 plus passing yards and a passing score or two, more than you can say about a lot of rookie quarterbacks out there. I will say Shuck missed Rashid Shaheed on what should have been a 30-yard touchdown. Was a nice little double move to get open. And then Shaheed also appeared to get injured there at the end of the game. We'll see what happens with that one. So otherwise, Dwayne, Alvin Kamara, Devin Neal rotation with no Kendre Miller. What did we see there?
Yeah, I mean, 60% of the rushing attempts to Kamara today. So like it has the role, only 0% to Devin Neal and rushing attempts, 20% to your man, Taysom Hill. Oh, yeah. And then the other 20% went to the quarterbacks. Pain, 6.5 PPR points though today for Kamara. And the weird thing with Kamara was only a 38% route participation, but only a 23% route participation for Devin Neal. So I think something weird is going on with the way that data was getting loaded. So you guys will have to check back on the utilization report tomorrow, because I was also noticing that the tight ends, even when I added up all three of them, they were at a 79% route participation. So something kind of funky going on with that. So we'll figure it out tomorrow. But Kamara still the lead back. To your point, Devin Neal, if there is a takeaway here and you're looking for the running back 2 for the Saints, if something were to happen to Kamara, knock on wood, we never want that, but it would be Devin Neal.
Also, do you think there's a chance, Dwayne, that we see this weird, as much as I hate the guy in fantasy football, I'm sure he's a very nice human and it's pretty fun what he does, but I feel like we could be looking at Taysom Hill week at some point, man.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, we've talked about it. It's just right now it's hard to predict because today he played 7% of the snaps, 20% of the rushing attempts, 2% route participation. So the challenge for Taysom Hill is this game script. Like when they get into this kind of game, like he's done. Like his plays are off the sheet. Like they need to be close. Like I think they would still try to use him like down a touchdown. But when you get down like you were today, it kind of snowballed on him pretty quickly in this game, just due to the defensive touchdown early and then the rest of the turnovers. But yeah, I do think in the right game script, we'll see a Taysom Hill game.
I'm just wondering if like Kamara gets a bruise or something down the stretch, season's lost, they kind of sit him out. Devin Neal will get some run, man, but I just think there could be a scenario we're looking up in like week 15. It's like, oh, Taysom Hill is getting 11 carries now. Oh, he's getting 3 targets.
Yeah, he could. But I mean, still, they could also just say, like we're 1-10. Let's just see what Devin Neal has. Why are we continuing to give the ball to the 80-year-old coming off, quadruple bypass knee surgery? I know that's not a real thing, but it's late, guys. So
you're 35, Taysom. Go see your family for God's sake. Okay, we'll see what happens there. Moving on, the Colts beat down the Titans 38-14, covering as 15-point faves over cash of 47.5. Another blowout. This one was 38-7 in favor of the Colts at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Sure seemed like just business as usual for the Colts, Dwayne, which is Jonathan Taylor being a freaking god amongst men. He now has 14 touchdowns in 8 games. He is on pace for 29.8 people. The all-time single season record is held by LaDainian Tomlinson with 31 all the way back in 2006. Absolutely incredible. JT is on that pace. So the holes were gaping wide here, as they have been against the Titans for portions of this season, particularly when they are facing this high-power Colts attack. 3 more touchdowns from Daniel Jones through the air, 1 to Michael Pittman, 1 to Josh Downs, and also 1 to Jonathan Taylor on one of those cool little pop passes. So Michael Pittman now the wide receiver 11 in PPR points per game. He's having a heck of a year. Tyler Warren didn't find the end zone, didn't exactly boom, but they didn't need him to. So again, just awesome overall stuff, Dwayne. Hey, my fire alarm be going off too. The Colts offense is fire, bro.
So random. Yeah, that scared the crap out of me, dude.
Got me too. So yeah, Colts offense.
Yeah, what's funny is like, look, we have this amazing offense with the Colts, and I don't really have anything to add. Not because the fire alarm has scared me, but it's the same thing we're just seeing every week right now. You just said it all. Like Pittman's the wide receiver 1, Pierce is the down the field threat, Josh Downs out of the slot, still at a 66% route participation, and Tyler Warren, we know know he's good at football. So like he's gonna do his thing. Like I wonder how much I jumped like on film. Like so I'll be interested to see when we roll the tape back on that.
Only other note would be Alec Pierce. I know we were hoping for maybe a bigger game, but guys, 69 yards, caught 2 of 5 targets. I cannot wait to see the all 22. I'm pretty sure he snapped the corner's ankles on a nice comeback route early. And then he made a sick 50-yard contested catch. So this situation, again, only 29 pass attempts from Daniel Jones. But yeah, Alec Pierce.
Good job by Alex Pierce boxing out and using the defender to fall backwards on the defender on that play, so you don't get the neck whip for the concussion.
Yeah,
so I like it. I like it, Pierce. That was a basketball player move on that one. Pierce boxing out.
I'm telling you, man, Darius Slayton plus money this next free agency cycle. Maybe the Colts pay up, maybe not. Over with the Titans, dead last in offensive points per game and EPA per play. Cam Ward took another 4 sacks out there. He flashes the arm talent multiple times a week. I still think the future could be bright. Found Chimere DK for 7 catches, 93 yards. That was cool. Even A.O. Manor, man, 52 yards. Could have had a big game, but he kind of stopped running, much to the chagrin of Cam Ward, was chewing him out a little bit after that. But just, again, man, I guess DK's doing some good things. Can we get excited there, Dwayne?
Yeah, I think number one, like we talked about this last week, but Cam Ward is playing better. I get it. Like the Titans are still the Titans, and like we're not going to be able to get that excited about them. But I mean, today Cam Ward came out and threw for 259 yards, 6.8 yards per attempt. So like he's actually shown to be able to throw for that, in that 230 to 260 yard range. And so that is enough that you can actually support some fantasy weapons. Like we don't think they're going to suddenly explode for a lot of touchdowns, but you did talk about DK here. Tyler Lockett. I don't know how that piece of news snuck past me, Ian. He was released last week. Like, I don't know how, like as much as I'm grinding projections and stuff, I have all my like new stuff like up, like somehow like the whole Tyler Lockett, it didn't matter. Like he had already lost his role. And we had already given it to DK as being the wide receiver 2 on the team and the projection model, but 67% route participation today, 16.4 fantasy points. So mostly doing his work from the slot. So he's not getting the outside reps yet. 72% of his work came from the slot, but man, like really has looked good in the last 2 games. So come on, guys. What are we doing? Like Van Jefferson is really enough. Like Io Manner's your deep guy. So DK should be the guy that gets to play the Z, like on the outside. Like, come on, Van Jefferson. We have seen Van Jefferson for many, many years. I don't care if you're an interim head coach. Like, you should still just like, come on, man. Let's get these young players out there. I think there is a chance that we do see DK some more. But in this role, in this offense, like I would say he's going to be due for negative regression. Like you're going to need to be out there like 80% of the time if you're going to play on the Titans for us to really like you. But hat tip to him playing really well. You already mentioned Io Manor, all the other guys. Like it's the status quo, but it was a massive rotation across the board today. Only 69% routes for Io Manor because like Van Jefferson has to play 62% of the time. Ian, those are just the rules.
Backfield headline by Tajay Spears. Had a real nice run down the 1-yard line. Unfortunately, wasn't able to find his way into the end zone. Did find the end zone later, though. So wound up having a pretty nice day at the office if you were forced to flex him. Unfortunately, tough to get too excited about things as long as Tony Pollard remains in town. But man, Dwayne, again, similar to Isaiah Davis, I think Tajay Spears is better than Isaiah Davis. But like, we wouldn't be ranking Spears as a top 10 running back without Tony Pollard. But hey, he'd be an upside RB2. We'd feel good about starting, and that trade deadline is around the corner.
Yeah, man. And honestly, with Cam Ward throwing for more yards per game and him being so good in the passing game, like he could still have outs to be a sneaky borderline running back 1, like what you're talking about. Like on a full slate, we would still have him as a low end running back 2, no doubt. But man, just guys, go watch Tajay Spears. This is a good football player. Like this is a good, not just as a receiver either. Like watching him run, he's better than Pollard. Watching him as a receiver, he's better than Pollard. Oh, guys, guess what? He is cheaper than Pollard. I don't even know if anybody would want to trade for Tony Pollard right now. Like he just doesn't. Yeah. He just doesn't look very good. He looks pretty washed, to be honest. I mean, and he's just not handling the volume that well. So Spears. We'll see what happens. He's a running back 4 for now, but obviously he's got some upside. And man, just looks terrific. So it would be amazing if Pollard got traded.
New career high long 41-yard run for Spears. I think his previous high was only 18, inexplicably, for someone who is explosive out there. So good to see him get that 20-yard run monkey off his back. But I'm with you on Pollard, man. I just kind constantly write notes and questions to myself as I'm watching the football games. And for Tony Pollard, I was just like, this looks nothing like the guy that we saw balling out in Dallas for all those years. Even last year, I thought he had a little bit more explosiveness. Again, guys get old. Who knows what injuries he's dealing with? Just unfortunate for Mr. Pollard. Speaking of Pollard's old Cowboys, they got their butts beat, Dwain, by the Denver Broncos, 44-24. Denver covered with ease. That's 3.5-point faves. The overcash, as it always does in Cowboys games, at 51.5. So this one was 44-17 Broncos halfway through the fourth quarter, and really didn't even seem that close for portions of the afternoon. So very nice game from Bo Nix, 247 yards, 4 touchdowns, and just 1 interception on the first drive. I don't know if he maybe thought the wide receiver was going to sit, but hey, after that INT, really was near flawless. Actually could have had another touchdown, but Cortland Sutton dropped. It would have been a 24-yard score. Just one play after, he had a 14-yard score nullified on a offensive pass interference penalty. So 8.5 yards per attempt for Bo Nix, Dwain. Unfortunately, that's only the second time this year he's broke 7. Okay, he looked fantastic against the Bengals. He looked fantastic against the Cowboys. He had some big-time throws late in their comeback wins against the Eagles, and obviously the amazing game against the Giants last week. So we've seen the flashes. I think he's putting enough together over the last 4 or 5 weeks that I feel better than I did in the first month. So, good stuff, Bo. It's just, we had this reaction after every time a team just goes absolutely nuts against the Cowboys. I want to be excited. It was a fun performance. We all started them accordingly, but just chill. It was the Cowboys.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, though, you just look at his season. He's at 20.2 fantasy points per game, which ranks 6th. And I mean, the actual reality of fantasy is like there's just a lot of ups and downs, for all players. And Bo Nix happens to be one of those players. He got off to a pretty slow start, but at this point, like, this is a guy that, we like the play caller. We don't love the weapons. We think the weapons are like good though. We like the scheme. 21.4 rushing yards, per game is not quite what we thought we would be getting at him. That ranks 16th right now. But 0.38 rushing touchdowns per game. So doing just enough on the ground to remain relevant. And then really these last, few weeks, he's had some of these touchdown explosions in the passing game. So at least showing that he has the ceiling. I do agree with you. Like, the biggest games have come against the worst pass defenses, but that's the case for a lot of quarterbacks. I mean, for the outliers, most matchups don't matter, guys. It's complete freaking noise that we talk about too much, but the Bengals and the Cowboys are actually the two that Ian brought up. Like, they actually do like boost everyone everywhere. So they actually really do matter. Troy Franklin, Ian, 26.9 fantasy points today. Woo! A 72% route participation. I will say these route participations could also be a little bit off just because it was a blowout victory over our Cowboys. So just a little bit, they might be a little bit held down, but 109 air yards today for Troy Franklin, a 30% target share, operated from the slot 54% of the time. So, hey, you got the Braylon Allen. That was a Hartitz heater this week, and Troy Franklin was the sicko call. So we got those two right. No, not Bray. Why'd I do that again? I did that on my original. Doing this? I don't know, dude. I don't know. I'm apparently, until you tell me. Isaiah Davis. My bad.
We get a few things right every now and then, even if we don't go, out of our way to pat ourselves in the back about it. I will say, though, Bo Nix, he has some good throws there. All right. It is the Cowboys defense. And I was, joking around on Twitter saying, like, yes, this defense, it doesn't have talent. They're also banged up, but they're also very undisciplined, and they just don't seem to know what's going on half the time. Shout out Matt Eberflus. But man, deep sideline pass to Cortland Sutton, the touchdown to Pat Bryant for his first career. That might have been Bo Nix's nicest throw of the year. That was an absolute dime. And then also, throwing it right over top of the linebacker to get to Troy Franklin on that post was good stuff as well. So I'm not trying to be a Bo Nix hater. Just, again, let's put it together against a better defense here in the future, and I will be happy to give him more flowers. Over in the run game, Dwain, not 1, not 2, but 3 touchdowns for RJ Harvey on just 8 touches. Still did seem like J.K. Dobbins was the running back y'all in Denver.
Yep. Harvey explosion game, 24.1 PPR points, same role he's always had. 21% of the snaps, 26% of the rushing attempts, 21% route participation. Somewhere, actually probably everywhere, tomorrow, the narrative will be that RJ Harvey's taking over. We don't know if he is, guys. Like, it can't hurt him that he played this well. Yeah. But we act like J.K. Dobbins is playing bad. He's not. We act like J.K. Dobbins was a bad player coming off of a bad year last year. Those things are also not true. And so I think the reality is right now that J.K. Dobbins is playing well. And I think people will look at it and they're going, oh, yeah, well, 46% of the snaps today. 56% rushing. Again, and a blowout win over the Cowboys. Like, so I really like RJ Harvey. I had to start him in a few spots, Ian, in some of these deep leagues that we play in. I think you and I even had him in a starting lineup today. So, like, I'll definitely take it. And he did the things we have seen on film from him. The things we saw in college, the supermodel liked him. We love RJ Harvey, but I don't think this necessarily means like the breakouts here. I just don't, man. Like I think Dobbins is also playing good football as well. So I would say this. If someone like gets super excited about RJ Harvey in your league in this game, I would trade him. Like, I'm going to go the opposite of everyone else. I would be willing to trade him away. Now, I'm not saying to give him away, because if J.K. Dobbins went down, knock on wood, next week, you're going to love RJ Harvey.
Oh, yeah.
But again, like, just saying RJ Harvey is going to take this backfield over from J.K. Dobbins, what do you think the odds are, Ian?
Non-existent. It's not going to happen. Could he carve out more of a 1B role? Okay, but dude, it goes back. I don't think they trust RJ Harvey at all in passing situations. He has 3 total pass blocking snaps this season. Dobbins has like 28. Beatty's around 15 or so. Like, even today, okay, it was a cool sweep, 40-yard touchdown. He ran through a massive hole, just like J.K. Dobbins did most of the day. And then he scored from the 1-yard line. Then he had a wide open, reception on another design play from inside the 5. So that was cool, man. But again, Dobbins isn't just going to go away. He's playing great this year.
Yeah, and I think that's the main thing. Like, people want to just say that Dobbins is complete dust, but he's also playing well. And so I think, unfortunately for RJ Harvey this season, now we have shown the research of rookies like 2nd and 3rd and 4th round running backs. They do tend to grow their roles and score more fantasy points over the rest of the season. To your point, maybe, Harvey can carve out a little bit more. But here's the thing, guys, for it to really be valuable to you, he needs to take it over.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we get to a point where we're just like, well, guys, we got another situation like Carolina and Seattle. Woo! Yeah, we're real excited about that, aren't we? So now maybe Harvey has the explosive playmaking ability, Ian, to overcome that. But guess what? He's not getting used in the passing game. It's still Tyler Bidet out there running these stupid routes, getting part of the 2-minute offense. It's just a major pain. If Tyler Bidet was not in the picture, like, I would be a little more bullish on, RJ Harvey. But he remains in the picture. And I know some people will be like, oh, well, that makes me more bullish on him because I think Tyler Bidet will just go away. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're just guessing. You're flat out just guessing, man, like everybody. So I would sell Harvey high if I could. But again, I'm not giving him away. He obviously has massive contingency value. And maybe he takes over Dobbins. But if I had to put odds on that, Ian, I would say like 10% chance.
I just think with so much of this stuff, and I've seen it with the Travis Etienne, Bayshall Tootin thing too, we're not looking at the entire pie as well as we should be. Yeah, Harvey had a good game. Why is he averaging 4.5 yards per carry and Dobbins is averaging 5.3 this year if Harvey's been the better running back? He hasn't been. So again, we've seen Evan Ingram come on a little bit stronger too in the passing game. I don't think there's this big RB pass down pie that there has been in past years. We're seeing a lot more Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims in screen games. Marvin Mims did get banged up here, so maybe that could change things. But I'm with you, would not be overreacting to the Harvey production at all. But hey, very nice game for the rookie. Maybe bigger things are going to be ahead. Over for the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, one of his worst games of the year. I think we can probably say it was the worst. 188 yards and 2 interceptions. Took 2 sacks. Was running around more than we've seen. Maybe that pressure getting to him a tad, but had 31 yards on the ground. Did get stopped at the 1-yard line on a QB sneak and didn't score. No worries, though. Javonte Williams was happy to oblige, and he wound up with 2 scores on the day. RB7 now in PPR points per game, Dwain. Something that I don't think is really going to change because Jaden Blue, as much as he was actually starting to make a few good things happen, he did fumble. The Cowboys were lucky to get back on top of it. So good stuff from Dak, not good stuff from Dak, good stuff from Javonte, George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, 78 yards, 74 yards. Again, didn't get the touchdowns, but still looking very, very good out there. Really just a big dud here, Dwayne, was Jake Ferguson, a guy who was freaking 4th in the NFL in receptions coming in, hit everyone with a goose egg. So good reminder that as much as we want to believe in this circle of trusted tight end, really still is only a couple guys. I thought Ferguson was in it, but goes to show.
I think Ferguson's still in it, man. We can't take him out of it for one game. Like, you know how this stuff is. Ian.
I'm moving him closer to the border.
I mean, look, like ish happens. It happens. It happens to freaking superstar receivers. Like, these things just happen. Like, so for Ferguson, like, I wouldn't be freaking out. the Cowboys are not going to play the Broncos every week. Like the Broncos had a very unique game plan, for them today. So it kind of is what it is. Like the backup tight ends caught some balls today for the Cowboys, but Ferguson didn't. I don't think there's honestly, there's no reaction. Like the best reaction on Ferguson after one game, after everything else we've seen, guys, is no reaction. Like he's a hold. Just hold him where he's at. Now, if he does this again next week and the week after he has 2 catches, then obviously, like we're in a different place, but we're not there right now.
Absolute dime from Joe Milton to Jalen Tolbert for a 35-yard touchdown. That was cool.
On the field. Good job.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think that's about it. Anything else on the Cowboys, Dwayne?
Nope.
No. Okay. So only other things would be, again, Broncos wide receiver Marvin Mims dealing with a concussion, and then Broncos cornerback Pat Surtain did have a lower body injury early that he came back from. Then he had a shoulder issue that actually sidelined him the rest of it. So Broncos are going to be facing the Houston Texans next week. If there's no Patrick Surtain, that could be a nice bump up for Nico Collins. The Cowboys will face the Arizona Cardinals on Monday Night Football. Time to get to Sunday Night Football, guys. First, though, it's our DraftKings closing lines. Big games, big moments, and even bigger upside this week. I have teamed up with DraftKings Pick 6 to give you a new way to get in on the action. With Pick 6, you ride the upside by making simple predictions. Will players score more or less than the number listed? You put your picks together, and the more you hit, the bigger your payout. And right now, there's an incredible offer. New DraftKings Pick 6 customers play $5 or more on your first pick set and get $50 back in bonus picks. That's right, new customers play $5 on your first entry, and you'll get $50 in bonus picks instantly. So don't miss your shot to ride the upside. Download DraftKings Pick 6, get on all the action, sign up using my promo code FANTASYLIFE. Thanks to DraftKings Pick 6 for sponsoring this. Let's make this season one to remember. The Green Bay Packers beat down the Pittsburgh Steelers 35-25 in the much heralded Aaron Rodgers revenge game. Was not meant to be, at least on this night. Green Bay covered as 3-point faves. The over did cash, though, at 45.5. Masterclass from Jordan Love. After a little bit of a slow start, Dwayne ended up completing 29 of 37 passes, 360 yards and 3 scores. At one point, he had 20 consecutive completions going on in the second half, many of which did go to Tucker Kraft. Just a massive performance for the man. 7 catches, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tucker, Kraft, yak, and cheese, Dwayne. That sounds like a dad joke you can get behind. If we working with something there? Yeah,
I like it. Are you sure that Julia's not pregnant is all I was saying for that joke. If she's not, Watson, it may have happened.
Christian Watson returning, led the wide receivers for 85 yards. And we were talking a little before the show, Dwayne, just disappointing, man. You could not have asked for a better run out for Matthew Golden. I cannot imagine how high we would have been drafting this dude, knowing that Jaden Reed was going to be out, and even just Wicks doing nothing, Christian Watson not being back until week 9. So just one game. They showed one late where, if Jordan Love could have seen Golden over the middle, maybe he could have scored. But if it didn't happen in the first 8 weeks, Dwayne, I understand rookies have nice second halves, but you were even throwing some good data this last week about saying, it's not like rookies just always, every single time, have these great second halves of the season. Not feeling good about the few teams where I have Matthew Golden, and I was hoping to be able to start him down the stretch, Dwayne.
No, me either. In fact, the data says the opposite of what everyone tells you. First-round wide receivers going back for the last 10 years have actually gotten worse over the rest of the season versus the first 7 games. Now, that's not a blanket statement for everyone, guys. I just put it out there because you hear so often, oh my God, the rookies are going to come out on the second half of the season. Like, okay, calm down, everybody. Like there's actually data that says, no, not all of them do. So I've just had too much coffee. That's all that just happened. But there's going to be some really terrible clips of this tomorrow that I'm going to be embarrassed about. Matthew Golden, man, look, 9% target share tonight. Christian Watson, first game back. I mean, dude tore his ACL late last year, Ian, and he comes back and he out targets him tonight in his first game back. And he gets the valuable targets down the field. Well, what's Matthew Golden doing? Oh, let's run a screenplay, man. It's all stuck to the line of scrimmage, like BS. So we would take that if you're also getting to earn targets on top of that. But it's almost everything has to be designed for this man. So unfortunately, right now, Matthew Golden does not look good. And this offense is about to get even more crowded. We're getting closer to a Jaden Reed return. Christian Watson is only going to get more healthy. I will not be surprised at all if one of two things, it's just a rotation across all those guys, or B, Matthew Golden gets squeezed. Right now, Christian Watson is more valuable to this offense than Matthew Golden because he can hit the big plays down the field. And that means he needs to be on the field more often, because at any moment, Jordan Love is great at buying time in the pocket, keeping his eyes down the field. Which thing would you rather have on the field? Give me freaking Christian Watson in a heartbeat.
Savion Williams, the other rookie, Dwain, now has more receiving touchdowns than Matthew Golden this year. So we also have that going on.
He hardly gets to play. He
I
has God.
Josh Jacobs up to 26 touchdowns in 25 games with the Packers. He is good. Emmanuel Wilson remains his direct handcuff. Next week, we're getting the Packers against the Panthers rush defense. That certainly didn't look anywhere near as good against the run as they've appeared, in previous weeks. So wheels up there for Josh Jacobs. Feel good about Jordan Love. Feel good about Tucker Kraft. Again, these wide receivers not looking too great. A little bit downgrade for Romeo Doubs too, Dwain. Again, not like we were just rushing to make him this auto start guy, but it does seem like Christian Watson's here to, cause problems for everyone else.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, I think you had Romeo Doubs into the wide receiver 3 convo. I had him in the wide receiver 4 convo. So I feel fine like where I've got him. You're gonna have to move him down some, Ian. Yeah. That look, here's the advantage of doing the things the way I do. Like, I kind of avoid the overreactions, but there are negatives, guys. Like, I can miss the boat on something, but I will usually tell you, hey, if you want this player, you can't wait to see if you get the next data point or not. Like, you got to go do it right now. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, just the more crowded it gets, the tougher it gets for everyone. But Romeo Doubs still played good tonight. Like, he had one ball I really wish he would have pulled in. It wasn't necessarily the easiest catch. But man, he and Jordan Love, like the timing and stuff they have on some of these plays, like he's playing the best football that I've seen from Romeo Doubs.
For sure. Meanwhile, on the Steelers side of things, Aaron Rodgers, 219 and 2 touchdowns through the air. I will say, man, like watching him play against the Bengals pass rush, you could certainly see him playing free, playing loose. Oh, okay, look, I can still move around. When it's Micah Parsons coming at you, all of a sudden he was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and get here on the ground. So took 3 sacks. Again, offense really just sputtered to a halt for the large duration of the second half. Did find Roman Wilson for a touchdown at the end that sure seemed like it kind of flew out of his hands. They ended up saying it was 6 points. So whatever. I am not a professional referee. Otherwise, found DK Metcalf for a score. DK already has as many touchdowns this year, aka 5, as he did all of last year. So not getting the booms every single week with the yards, but you would hope they were coming. Nice chemistry at a minimum between Rodgers and Mr. Metcalf. So I think we did get an injury to Pat Freiermuth at some point, Dwain. So something to keep an eye on there. Did we see any of the 40 trillion tight ends on Pittsburgh maybe pull away in the meantime?
No. 59% routes to Jonuf. We had 41% to Freiermuth, 28% to Darnell Washington. So what we typically see in the games where, they're trailing or they have to get in the shootout, you get a little bit more work for Jonnu. And then last week we kind of got the surprise curveball. Oh, Pat Freiermuth's going to be a thing again. And obviously the injury here today kind of took care of that, unfortunately for us. But yeah, it's just a 3-way rotation, man. It's really gross. And here's the problem for the Steelers. Like, when you're down by like 14 to 17 points, like, the opposing defense is like, sweet, they're going to run these 3 tight ends out here again. Like, they need another receiver, dude. They need to trade for a receiver. Like, because I'm sorry, Roman Wilson, great. You caught that 47% route participation. In a game where you're getting your wheels blown off, like, there should be more 11 personnel. In a game like this, the Steelers just don't have the ability, in my opinion. It's really tough for them to get back into games whenever you're going to try to run this heavy tight end stuff. It's great when you're in a close game or you're leading, and they've shown that like they know how to make that work clearly. But you need another receiver opposite DK Metcalf and with Calvin Austin in the slot.
I like Calvin Austin. He should be your wide receiver 3, probably even more likely your wide receiver 4. Roman Wilson, again, had a nice game out here. He still hasn't really proven much, if anything, obviously through his injury-riddled first 2 years in the league. Otherwise, Dwain, this backfield once again seemed to be dominated by Jalen Moore. No signs of Caleb Johnson after he at least had a little bit of something going out of the bye.
Yeah, big time, not performance for Jalen Warren, but another big time data point. He had 9.3 PPR points today, but a 65% snap share and 72% of the rushing attempts. And so we talked about in weeks 2 and 3, we saw these data points and it looked like he was taking over the backfield. He had an injury in practice heading into week 4, comes out of the bye, and it looked like he was back into a 3-way rotation, but maybe it was just they were easing him back in, because now the 2 data points since then have been this, which is Jalen Warren as the clear running back 1 for the team. He also had a 60% route participation or 59% route participation. So Didn't quite work out tonight, but Jaylen Warren has played well. He's been really good with the ball in his hands receiving. He's actually been better over the last few games as a runner. Early in the year was struggling a little bit in that department, but 4.8 yards per carry tonight. So it's just really more of a kind of a weird game script thing. Didn't get quite as many targets as what we've seen in the past games, but he's out there for those plays. So yeah, I think Jaylen Warren looking really good. Like we've got a nice trend going with him.
Kenneth Gainwell did lose a fumble late. I don't see him getting any touches on the last drive, so we'll see what happens. Jaylen Warren certainly cemented as the lead back either way there. So looking ahead to week 9, the Steelers are going to be taking on the Colts, and the Packers, again, will be taking on the Panthers. We'll be worrying about those the rest of the week here on the Fantasy Live Show. Look at us, Dwayne. Only took us 9 weeks or 8 weeks, however many weeks we were ahead. Got one in under 2 hours. So kudos to you, and kudos to you guys for hanging out with us. We appreciate that. As always, if you like the show, please feel free to like the show. Otherwise, Dwayne, you have some utilization report goodness ready for us tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully have it out tomorrow, 5, 6 Central, guys. Like that's our goal right now. We try to get it out before the game. If not, we try to have it out by halftime of the Monday night game, so you guys can start getting ready, for the next week. How about you, Hartitz? How about some rankings?
Oh, bro, rankings will be done by about 3 p.m. and then we'll inevitably have a bunch of injuries pop up. So then I got to redo half of it. And then Monday Night Football happens where then I have to redo another couple sections. And then it'll be ready for you guys to all read ahead of Tuesday morning. So make sure you guys check that out over at fantasylife.com. Again, always appreciate you hanging out with us. So for Dwayne, for producer Mick, I'm Ian. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, take care, everybody.